But you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And now here's your host, Rich Barris.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris. It's an election graphic today. An election graphic, which means we obviously have some polling we want to go over. We will be talking a lot about this all through the week, all right, because there's a lot that I can't get to in one day. And there's a lot I see in this poll. It's kind of a big deal. All right, so it's going to come out when we have some other polls that come out a little bit after the Emerson poll, a week after the Emerson poll, a couple of days after the ABC Washington Post poll. And there's a couple of things that I think need to be said, right? So there is this major difference we started talking about last week. When you're mixing modes, calibrating the samples, and making sure that you reach different groups and you have reached what we like to say, you've reached representation for each group. You weight down to create a lower weighting efficiency. If you weight up, you decrease your weighting efficiency, which makes the poll a lot more subject to gross error. So you oversample, and then weight down. All right, it's a massive poll. All right, our poll is a massive poll. And like I tell you, in polling, size does matter. Sorry, ladies, but it is true. Sorry, guys. But we're trying to build up a large enough sample where nationally it's always about 3,000 and, it could be a little less, could be a little bit more, but enough where we are oversampling critical states. All right. So we can give you an idea, not more than an idea of what is going on per state. And eventually, what do I want? What I want is a national tracker graphic that's going to go up probably on Big Data Poll. I don't know yet. I haven't decided. National tracker, cute little line graph, and then a nice little map where we project the vote share for at least, like I said, these key states. All right, and have enough of a sample to do it. All right, so feeling pretty confident. I know what Florida looks like because I polled it separately 2 weeks ago, and we are close, very close. Pretty confident I know what California looks like. Pretty confident I know what Ohio looks like. Iowa, excuse me. Pretty confident I know what New Hampshire looks like. All right. So I will say this, and I'm just going to say it clear as day. There needs to be mind changing to stop Trump at this point. There needs to be something that happens. I don't know what that is. Rush Limbaugh, I was always a big believer in what he said because it's true. I listened to the voters. The only one who can break the bond with the Trump voter is Trump himself. That's it. Heels are digging in, and it's early. Just to give you an idea of the monumental task Ron DeSantis or anybody has in front of them. And by the way, we're going to talk about whether Wall Street and K Street are souring on Ron as an article in Politico we absolutely must go over. And it's on the heels of several other articles. And then secondly, for this poll, we ran a little bit of an experiment. Locals, you know all about this. Could we increase participation rates with research on other things that we know to be the case? And I'll get more into that in a second, and I'll give you a ballpark because once we're done, it's computed. I'll tell you exactly whether we were able to, and if so, by how much. All right, so this is the task Ron has in front of him. Polling it around 20%. Let's say it's 20%. I know some polls have them at 30. I'm going to tell you why that is. Polling under or a little over 20% at this point in a primary, in a nomination, since the modern era, gives you about, because this idea that, early poll leaders don't always go on to be nominees. That's not always true. Has it been true before? Sure, but it's not always true. And actually, when you look at the share a candidate has at a certain point, that gives you an even better and more definitive idea. So DeSantis's chances of being the nominee without considering the special circumstances. What are special circumstances? Trump is not really a new candidate. He's not a governor. He's not a new presidential candidate. He should be viewed more historically as an incumbent, at least somewhere in between an incumbent and a new slate. This is not 2015. Trump is dominating like he never dominated in our polling in 2015 or 16 for that matter. All right, so if you just take all that off the table, the fact that he's an incumbent, the fact there's an indictment and it pissed people off, and that caused some older voters to say, I never thought this would happen in the United States of America. It's Trump or bust now. Take all that off the table and just look at modern history of presidential nominations and polling. And DeSantis has about 1 in 5 chance of being the Republican nominee. That's without these special circumstances. You add the fact that a former president, who is by far the front runner right now, you add to that he's running against a former president, and that former president is largely beloved by the party still. 8 and 10 love him. I think that significantly decreases DeSantis's chances. Also, we're looking at these numbers, and we're not really considering any specifics, but there are some specifics that could work against you. Mainly a little something called charisma. Ron DeSantis does not have charisma at all. This poll was the first time we openly heard people participating in being interviewed telling us, has he always been this weird? Is he a weird dude? He's a weird dude. I don't know. I was thinking about DeSantis, but he's a weird guy. I saw him on the overseas trip. He was just weird. Or just like walked away from people in Iowa. It's weird. This is outwardly being spoken during interviews. And I'm sure if you ask the call center people that they hired to do the poll at ABC, they're going to tell you they heard the same thing. I guarantee it. That's how prevalent it was. Let's first just look at what we got on the board. And guys, you know the deal by now. Until the crosstabs go up, this could change here and there a little bit. But generally speaking, this is the state of the race. All right. As of this morning, Donald Trump was at 61%, 60 point. And let me look just specifically. Asa Hutchinson, Larry Elder. I mean, I don't even know why you're running. Tone deafness is a major problem in the Republican Party. These people think they're going to run. I don't care whether he's well known or not. People just don't care. They don't like the guy. So, I mean, it's it. Ron DeSantis fell to 17. He is down from a high of 30 and down from 21, 22 in our last poll. That was released as, the official top line. So a high of 31, 32. I'd have to go back and check. I want to say 31, but I always say 30 because I'm rounding. All the way down now to 17. Last and stop on the way. What was a couple weeks ago? We did put out that other poll. It was like not even a month ago. Last stop along the way, 21%, something like that. Mike Pence now is taking third place. And let me see if I can get you the interactive version. Mike Pence is in third, and Vivek has moved to fourth, which, again, is it that much? I don't think it's anything to sneeze at. He was at, when we first started polling, Vivek wasn't even up on the screen. People are like, who the hell is that? And now we see Vivek obviously at 5%, right around, just a little bit under where Mike Pence is. And I thought I actually put up the one with the data labels so you guys could see the percentages, but I did not. So let me read them out to you. Trump, 60.9. Ron DeSantis, 17 flat. I thought it was 17.1. It may have moved. It may have changed. He deteriorated by the day. Although the phone polling was stronger for him. All right. He is in the 20s in the phone only. Live phone. You add P2P to that, the online sample. This is why mixed mode matters. For those of you who were watching during the public polling project in 2020, obviously it matters. Virginia, it matters. when you have bigger participation elections, not midterms. In midterms, looking back at 2022, the online sample can lead you astray if you're not careful. The phone was better. Why? Because it's high interest, educated, older, right? More so than these lower participation presidential voters, which just don't want to talk on the phone. They do not want to talk in a live interview. All right. Mike Pence, 5.5%. Vivek Ramaswamy, is that how I say it? I hope so. 4.9%. Nikki Haley tumbles to 3%. Tim Scott, 1.5%. Larry Elder, 0.8%. And Asa Hutchinson, 0.4%. Ladies and gentlemen, 1,400 interviews with Republican primary voters, and Asa Hutchinson got exactly 5 votes. 5. And I don't know why I'm picking on him, because I don't know what the hell Larry Elder is doing to himself. Larry isn't doing much better. And he's got high name recognition. Very high name recognition. I don't know what he's thinking. 2.8% said someone else, and only 3.1% are unsure or undecided. Ladies and gentlemen, the last column. Does anybody remember what it was last time? This is a problem for anyone not named Trump in the Republican primary. There's no one else to convince. And even if you get everyone out of the race, it doesn't matter. Let's say everyone bails on the Republican nomination, even though it's Ron DeSantis that's having major problems now. We're going to read it. Nobody who's met with Nikki Haley says, "Wow, Nikki's weird," and I don't think she has the personal skills or the juice to do this. And by the way, like Harry Enton said in his latest article, she's not trying to outflank Trump in Trump's own lane. That's what DeSantis is trying to do. I don't know how you do that. His support is not coming from conservatives. Trump is winning everything. It's the margin that matters, really, at this point. Self-identified conservatives, Trump is taking at least 2/3 any given day. 66%. I actually think our Republican primary electorate could be a little too moderate. I went and I looked just for, what's and giggles to see what other people were projecting for the Republican primary electorate. 70% self-identified conservative. We are lower than that. Much lower than that. Might wind up after doing some geo weights. Maybe that changes. Excuse me. But let me just give you that number right now, just so you have an idea. Sorry, I have the hiccup. I just got a hiccup on me. In which party? And by the way, you may notice that we did include the caucus question this time. So, and then others who may be independent, who are in a closed state, are ineligible to run. So that's why you're going to see a bit of a disparity with people. So when you look at the overall general electorate sample, especially with 2024, and you're going to see not everybody that is in the poll that is a Republican is in the Republican primary poll. Because, of course, it's time to be realistic. Not everyone who votes in the general, even those who consider themselves a Republican, are actually going to vote in the primary. That's not the case. And actually, our Republican primary electorate is 64% conservative. So not bad. Really not bad. Or at least, I'm sorry, just in the raw it was. Not bad at all. And I don't suspect, giving all the other demographics, it is too educated. Without a doubt, it's too educated. But given the other demographics, we're not going to see that big of a change. All right. And let me see what. You're not supposed to have to hit it. You're not supposed to have to. Laura, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, wow. Really? Okay. Apparently locals having an issue. What a shocker. It's a beta. So It does show it. It show it as working. I don't know. It is a beta, so my fault. If something's not going right, I put the links to Rumble, YouTube, and Getter in there. You're just gonna have to use one for right now. All right. And I will upload the episode after. All right. Sound good? Sound like a plan? A little bit of a compromise. You could still sit in the chat though, because I'm going to read your comments. So if you're watching on Rumble and you want to comment in locals, knock yourself out. Because I just happen to look at locals and YouTube the most. It's easier. YouTube is right in front of me, and locals is always up. The live chat's always up. So don't leave the locals chat if you're really trying to grab my attention. All right. So in any event, so I just don't know how you do that. There's another chart I want to show you though, but I have to point this out. All these other polls that you're going to see are all giving you like a Trump +7, a DeSantis +7. We're going to show you that the electorate is not the same based on who is the nominee. The ABC Washington Post poll that just came out, they're making an assumption it's of all adults or all registered voters. We're going to give you always both. What's the registered voter, and then have the likelihood of these people to vote, etc. At some point, the people who tell us that they simply will not vote if their nominee is not the nominee is going to be factored into a voter screen. So the electorate will probably look more educated if Ron DeSantis is the nominee. The electorate will look more working class if Donald Trump is the nominee. What I'm saying is absolutely true, and the polling industry, as usual, kind of needs to evolve to reflect this reality. The people who voted in 2016 were not going to vote in 2012. They were not going to come out for Mitt Romney. That's not, in fact, they did not. The same has obviously been true in 2018 versus 2020 and 2020 versus 2022. Electorates change. And we're going to have to start showing that. Like, so if Trump is the nominee, here's what the electorate's going to look like. Here's what the results are going to look like. If DeSantis is the nominee, if Vivek is the nominee, et cetera, et cetera. Because that's real. That's the real world. That's how it really works. All right, what else do I want to tell you about? Over the week, and again, we'll go over this in a lot more detail. But look, the Republicans, I will say this. It looks to be it is too educated. So, I mean, the Republican electorate is not going to be, what is this? Let me just do some real quick math. It can be actually half and half, educated, non-educated. So I don't want to make that leap. But 25% are not going to have a post-grad. Okay? That's not going to happen. And that's another danger that DeSantis has run into here. He's lost the educated groups. The 4 years are way gone. And the post-grads who in our polling had actually done, Trump had actually been doing better among than some other polls. That is DeSantis's best group. Still. All right, so moving on. Let's look at some of what I'm talking about. I'm talking about modeling different electorates. Oh, by the way, the working class lead. Oh, man, do I have a way to show them that? Let me see. Among Republican primary voters who, let's start with white, okay? Let's start with white. Hold on. So forget about which one you're going to vote in. Let's just go. I'll leave the whole thing wide open. What race, ethnicity best describes you? We'll say white, non-Hispanic. This is, in my mind, almost like an impossible result, but it's not. I mean, it's real. This is just the truth. But I'm just stunned at the disparity, because I'm going to show you the next chart that has white working class. I just want to tell you Trump's lead in the primary. Okay, so among working class Republican primary voters, Trump leads 68.3 to 11.3. He has a 57-point lead on Ron DeSantis on non-working white Republican primary. I mean, non-college white Republican primary voters. Among all non-college Republican primary voters, he still has a 60-something% lead over Ron. A 60 plus 60 share, and his lead over Ron DeSantis slips to 40%. So why is that? Because there's a lot of undecideds with Black and Hispanic primary voters, which make up about 18% right now of the primary electorate. Trump is still murdering everybody 5-1 with them. It's just there are a lot more who say they're undecided. Okay. All right, let's look at this one though. Before we go on and read some stories, it's already 12:21. I was trying to get to the story before the break, but Biden versus Trump, Biden versus DeSantis, and this is not a likely voter. So what's going to happen when the likely voter model is implemented is think about it. Use your imagination. This is why I want to do what I was just telling you. Why? Biden versus Trump, white working class. Trump is carrying it. That group 60.3 to 24. That's, approaching 26, worse than Hillary Clinton did against Trump. 6.6 said they would vote for someone else. 9.1 said they're undecided. Biden versus DeSantis, white working class, 42.6 to 28%. Now, some of that, look at that, 10.7% someone else, 19.7% undecided. Obviously, DeSantis supporters would say that's name recognition. Well, you can't have it both ways. Then why is he up over Biden in the ABC Washington Post poll by the same margin Trump is, even though his vote share is less? And I told you vote share matters. When a candidate is just below or hits 50, statistically what that means is it's a 95% certainty that they're going to win with 50 plus or more. Okay? 50.1 or more, whatever. It's not just name recognition. Why? How do we know that? Biden's share of the white working class vote is actually higher. Those aren't people who are backing off. Sometimes when you see name recognition, how you'll know is that Biden's vote will back off, like the ABC Washington Post poll. That's what happened. His vote share backed off a little bit against DeSantis versus against Trump. Why? Because they just don't know who DeSantis is, and they're like, oh, well, I'm not that keen. So at least some people said that they were more undecided. That's what's happening. That's name ID, textbook. This is different. This is 19.7% who are choosing undecided because the Trump or bust vote this month has now increased to just under 20%. These are people who will not vote. So when they tell us, I would not vote if Trump's not the nominee, when we get to the head-to-head matchup question, they're still in. And they're not given a choice of, I'm not going to vote. So they choose undecided. Maybe we should give them the chance that I'm not going to vote. But right now, I actually think this is pretty good. This is showing us what is going on clearly. Ironically, look at the share of the third-party vote. Someone else. That's third-party vote. It's higher. It's 4 points higher in a Biden versus DeSantis matchup than it is against Trump. So this is not name recognition. This is something else. Ultimately, DeSantis would obviously carry the white working class vote. The question is by how much and how much of them would actually vote. Because as Robert and I talked about last Monday on What Are the Odds, when we were previewing some of this stuff, those people, many of them, are not going to vote. Mark my words. Biden versus Trump, evangelicals. Trump 70.4 to Biden's 13.6, with 6% or 6.6% saying that they would vote for a third-party candidate, somebody else, and 9.3% saying they're undecided. Against DeSantis does fairly well, 60%. That's George W. Bush evangelical level support. Biden does a little bit less, textbook name recognition, what I was telling you about. They backed off a little bit. It's still not a lot. It's statistically insignificant. Given the sampling error, 2.1, 12.5%. But the share of the third-party vote, again, increases beyond the sampling error, 10.1%. And the undecided vote is up from 9.3 in the Trump versus Biden matchup to 17.5. Some of them will go with DeSantis. Some of them will go with Biden. And I'm telling you, some of them won't vote. They won't vote. What does that mean? Ohio and Iowa suddenly look a lot closer. Especially Iowa. They're not blowaways anymore. It's not an 8-point route, 10-point route. We're back to nail-biting margins like Romney versus Obama and Bush v. Gore, Bush v. Kerry in Ohio. And yeah, maybe he carries Iowa like Bush carried Iowa in 2004. Maybe not. Maybe he loses it like Mitt Romney lost it. People are under these delusions, like as if Iowa didn't vote to the left of Ohio in every presidential election before Trump in the modern era. John McCain lost Ohio by what? 3.5, 4 points, 4 points. He lost Iowa by 12. Mitt Romney lost Ohio by about 2.8. He lost Iowa by 6. Why? Those two groups. Obama wound up doing a lot better with the white working class against the technocrat than anybody thought. A weird technocrat. An awkward guy. Worth noting. Wisconsin is off the table. I don't care what polls you're showing me. Demographics are demographics. They're off the table. It's gone. You're going to get creamed in Northwestern lumberjack country. Ashland, Bayfield. Remember, we talk about these all the time. Douglas. You'll be in the 30s with numbers like that. Like Romney. And in the western part of the state where you need to juice, not only win 70+% of the evangelical vote. I believe Trump took 72 in Iowa last time. Or 73, something like that. In Wisconsin, excuse me. Both times. I think it's like 72, 73%. But you got to juice the percentage of the evangelical vote to about a quarter. Yeah, that's not going to happen with 17.5% undecided. It tells you. And now, again, there's time. There's still time. It's just, really, is there? Is anything going to fundamentally change? Bush was an idiot, but he wasn't awkward. They still liked him. His base was the white evangelical base, even in the Midwest. From the South to the Midwest. That's how he almost carried Wisconsin. It's how he came pretty close to carrying Pennsylvania. He did not, but there are a lot more in Iowa, Ohio, even Wisconsin than people realize. You got to crank that share to 25%, and you damn sure better win 70+, or you're going to lose. Why? Because the suburbs of Waukesha are not swinging back your way. It's not happening. Son and I had to go out and get him something. He's got a little dance. It's going to be cute. It's his first little, real school dance. I'm so stoked. Had to go out, just the guys, get him something spiffy. At the end of it, we stopped at a Starbucks. He wanted this white chocolate mocha thing. I can't stand Starbucks, but he was like, hey, I want to try that white chocolate thing I saw on TV. And I'm like, all right, let's go in. And I'm just sitting there staring at these suburban white women that Republican establishment idiocrats, we should call them, actually think are going to, swing back to them. Looking at these women, it is so crystal clear that there isn't a snowball's chance in hell that they're going to vote for Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis or Mike Pompeo or Mike Pence. Pompeo's out. That's why we took him out of the poll. Not a snowball's chance in hell. They're Democrats, and that's a wrap. It's not changing anytime soon. Laura. Great minds, Laura. Great minds. You know what? Let's take a break at the hour, all right? Because I want to, let's take a break on the top of the hour, not the half hour, all right? I think I can pull it off. If not, maybe I'll do the 45, and then we'll do a 15. Yeah, we'll do 12:45 and 1:15. Sound good? All right, thank you. Unless hell, I need a break myself. But, okay, listen, I told you things were going to get, this is so weird how they do this. Whatever, I'll just leave it up. Things are going to get a little bit weird. I have two articles I want to show you. I brought them up with Steve on War Room today, but we didn't go into it, and I want to talk about why I think it is important. A couple weeks back, months even, Donors were saying, look, you got to right this ship. You got to show us something in the polling. They didn't believe the push polls that were being put out by Public Opinion Strategies, who, by the way, partnered with the Hart Research poll with NBC News. He didn't believe it. The consensus of polling has been pretty clear. And they said, look, Ron, you got to do something. You got to show us something or we're going to pump the brakes. And then mega donors unfairly began throwing Ron DeSantis under the bus and not being honest about why. But, what's that old saying, Laura? If you're going to get in the pen with the pigs and roll around in the mud, don't complain you're filthy, right? Something like that to that effect. It's not like they just found out Ron DeSantis is pro-life. They didn't just find out that he's against certain books being in the schools. They, all this crap, Walt Disney. None of this is new. They're using it as an excuse. They don't like backing losers or perceived losers. And they are going to pretend like they're like too cool for school, too cool for Ron. And I'm really super principled. And that's why I'm off the wagon. That's why I'm off this train. You're so full of crap. Anyway, let's get into it. The overseas trip was a disaster for Ron DeSantis. Behind the scenes and as a PR move. Behind the scenes, it was mockery up and down. Laura, right? Behind the scenes, it was just mockery up and down. Bannon is absolutely correct. These people from Wall Street talk. They get their calls from the Lloyd's of London, and they're told just this horrible account of how bad this trip was. It didn't go over well. And then, of course, you had the bobblehead moment, right? Which also didn't go well when he was in Japan. The bobblehead moment. Come on, we played it last week. The bobblehead.
Governor, polls show you falling behind Trump. Any thoughts on that?
Guys, I'm not a candidate, so we'll see if and when that changes.
Get your Ron DeSantis bobbleheads. $9.99. And you get a campaign sticker. All right, let's put this up. Really weak option. Wall Street sours on DeSantis as Trump's challenger. Look, first of all, as a Trump challenger, I told you Glenn Youngkin and others had been making calls when Ron DeSantis first slipped when it came to his reaction to the indictment, but it was more than that. It was his flip-flop back and forth with Tucker. He gave him a detailed statement about where he stood on Ukraine, how he viewed it. He said it was a territorial dispute. Then he got crap from the donors and from K Street and from Wall Street and from, Capitol Hill. And he got spooked. He got attacked by the establishment, who he knows he needs to back him, and he got spooked, so he flip-flopped again, pissing off the voters and being called out by Tucker and Trump. It was a bad look. That was the first, I said it to Steve weeks ago, and I'll repeat it here. That was the first dent in DeSantis's, I don't even want to say armor, it's more like mini chainmail. I'm serious, you laugh, but I'm serious. It's not like armor. Like the Teflon Don has armor. Barack Obama has armor. He doesn't have armor. He's got he's like a squire with like lightweight chainmail, Yeah. Anyway, so this is what I'm talking about. They get these calls and it's not good. Really weak option, in quotes. Wall Street sours on DeSantis as Trump's challenger. Ron DeSantis' gubernatorial reelection campaign is still loaded with cash, giving him some big advantages over possible competitors. But many now say he no longer seems so formidable, at least on Wall Street. Sam Sutton and Ben White for Politico. Wall Street is firmly in the never Trump camp. Oh, without a doubt. I wish I could tell you some stories, but I can't. I literally have non-disclosure agreements. They hate this guy. Even so-called Republicans, they hate his guts. Why? It's very simple. He doesn't need to pick up their phone call. Just listen to them, and they'll tell you all about it. They disguise it in right, Laura? They disguise it as if they're offended by him, or he's childish, or, he's too crass. And really, if you listen to them, it's all a load of horse. You know what? It's really that. Because they'll say it. I mean, if you really listen, the truth is between each sentence, right? Like thrown in out of nowhere. And the truth is, he makes them feel irrelevant. He doesn't do what they want him to do. He doesn't always pick up their phone calls, and he doesn't need them. In 2016, he did what he did without him. He took their money in the election against Hillary, even though Wall Street gave to Hillary 3-1. Romney did very well with Wall Street. Yeah. But the fact is, Biden, I think, got Wall Street 5 or 6-1. I kid you not. I think so. But whoever did give him money, it was like perfectly fine because he got where he was already without them. So then when they would call, he would just like not care. He just wouldn't care. All right. So they can't stand that. And that's the real truth. Finding another Republican who can make never happen is another question. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has been seen as the top pick to lock down the support of financial titans who have already pumped millions into his state campaigns. But as he stumbles through gaffes over everything from his personal demeanor and stance on Ukraine to his snacking habits, Wall Street donors are keeping the door open to his competitors, according to more than a dozen bankers, attorneys, and political consultants interviewed for the story. Well, I already know people took calls from Glenn Youngkin. Already know it. People will change horses, said David Carney, a veteran Republican strategist for both former Bush presidents. That's probably the right person to talk about for this article. Hold on, bear with me. You really get excited about somebody and then all of a sudden realize, not really my cup of tea. Is that really what happened? This is what I'm talking about with these people. They're so full of crap. They loved him. There were dinners, there were meetings, there were outings, there were phone calls, buddy, friend-like phone calls. These people are so full of crap. It's not really my cup of tea. Glenn said Ron's pleather armor. Yeah, it's pretty much pleather. Where Wall Street puts its money matters because financial industry executives are among the biggest donors in presidential elections. And while bankers and asset managers generally favor lower taxes and lighter touch regulation, they also value stability and experience, and they spread their money around to candidates of both parties, meaning they're very much in play in each cycle. That is the biggest load of crap, Elliot, I've ever heard. They hedge their bets because that's who they are. In the end, they're glorified degenerate gamblers with a lot of money. Let's get real. They hedge their bets because if they give enough to the Democrat anyway, then they're going to be able to call them up and carve out an exemption for themselves anyway. This has nothing to do with valuing stability and experience. Those are words used in lieu of what they really mean. Get me my crap without a fuss and be efficient at doing it. Know who to call. That's what they really mean. Stability, Laura. These are the people who value stability? The financial meltdown after meltdown after meltdown that they've been behind? Literally the subject of Richard Bookstaber's A Demon of Our Own Design. They value stability? What a joke. They value the status quo in their Maseratis. They value when they pick up the phone, the president answers instead of Trump, who tells them to pound sand, I'm busy. On paper, that should give DeSantis an advantage. People close to Wall Street donors said his national profile and powerhouse fundraising operation that has included support from hedge fund titans like Ken Griffin and Jeff Bias. Ken Griffin, by the way, who said he would never give to another Republican again because of Trump's, quote, Muslim ban, which the U.S. Supreme Court said, and I quote, was squarely within presidential authority, unquote. And yada, 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 not a Muslim ban. Cute little talking point, not really real. Jeff Yass had positioned himself as most able to survive a primary with former President Donald Trump. DeSantis' gubernatorial re-election campaign is still loaded with cash. Woo, I hate that effect. Giving him big advantages over possible competitors. But many now say he no longer seems so formidable, at least on Wall Street. And especially, folks, you got to shake hands. Can you tell I'm shopping for Hollywood furniture? You got to shake hands with Iowa caucus goers. You have to shake hands with New Hampshire primary voters. You can try to move up California all you want, which is the plan, all right? And get Tom McClintock, who needed Trump's endorsement not to get beaten by Nathan Magzik last time, to then stab Donald Trump in the back, along with everybody else, by the way. By the way, Tom, why are you voting for the debt ceiling hike for the first time in your career? It's a good question, isn't it? I'm sure there's a very colorful answer, which I, of course, already know. Assume this is rhetorical, all right? Anyway, it doesn't matter if you lose Iowa, you lose New Hampshire, you lose South Carolina. There's a little something called momentum. The money doesn't make as big of a difference in these states until you get to South Carolina. And then it does have some impact, but at the end of the day, you're running against Donald Trump. And the problem is you have downstate populists and evangelicals coupled with the Horry County New England migrator, that is just totally pro-Trump. This is what happened to Jeb Bush last time. He thought, well, my money's not helping me in Iowa. It's not helping me in New Hampshire. But when I get to South Carolina, I'm going to carpet bomb Donald Trump. I'm going to bring in my brother who won it overwhelmingly. And it was still viewed favorable. One of the few states where George Bush is, still liked. And at the end of the day, he lost every single county to Donald Trump, who took all 50 delegates. First time ever. Record setting. I just don't see it happening. His escalation of a feud with the Walt Disney Company over its opposition to what critics called the Don't Say Gay law has made for a rocky rollout to an expected presidential campaign announcement in the coming weeks. On April 26th, the company announced it was suing DeSantis, saying he violated its First Amendment rights, which will force him to do battle with one of the state's largest employers in federal court. And by the way, they were getting ready to skip the exploratory committee phase and everything. So let's not pretend like this isn't a delay. There is a delay here. Something's happening. Somebody called somebody. We're now May 8th. And truth be told, you can go back and find the headlines where inner circle people were saying today would be the announcement. By latest tomorrow. It was wait and see, and this is why, said an advisor to one top GOP donor in New York, who, like others, interviewed for this story, was granted anonymity to avoid alienating candidates. This is who these people are. They're still going to open the door to Nikki Haley. They're still going to open the door to Ron DeSantis. They're still going to open the door to Glenn Youngkin. Everyone's door is open to everybody except for Donald Trump. We're not the only ones who are happy with our with our decision to wait and see. They all, like I said, these are they're hedging their bets. I know good friends with one who's not a total nut, or at least he's not. Other people in the family are certainly, more. I wouldn't call them anti-Trump, but they're less super Trumpy. It's not like they were ever going to support Nikki Haley, but they weren't going to turn her down either when she requested to come and meet with them. With Trump surging in the polls following his indictment on criminal charges stemming from alleged hush money payments, that's not even right. Of course, the indictment had an impact, but that is not what did this. DeSantis did this. It was the worst time for him to drop the ball and do what he did. Policy flip-flops, and they said it before. The lack of a personal touch is a really nice way to put it. He's awkward. Awkward. One supporter who considers him a friend told me he thinks he's super, super smart, probably on the spectrum. That's supposed to be a compliment. They were looking at him, again, I freaking hate to say this. Larry Sabato was right. You didn't see his segment on CNN. He was 100% correct. You cease to be an idea any longer. When you're an idea, you're polling at 30, 35%. Then people really see you. They vet you. And it doesn't go well. It's textbook. Ron DeSantis will not be the first person that this happens to. Is not the first person. And he won't be the last. Frankly, Scott Walker was more personable. And look at how it went with him. One executive at New York Bank said, right, with Trump surging in the polls, his indictment on criminal charges stemming from alleged hush money payments. One executive at a New York bank said confidence in DeSantis' ability to win is flagging. Why? He's saying, look, he's too confident. Why? Because Team DeSantis has been telling these people, as I told you, and I was called a liar by them, he's been running around meeting with the Team Ryans, Team McCarthy's, the donors, and the whole pitch has been when Trump gets indicted, Trump is going to be indicted. Think about that for a second. This is a guy whose entire strategy hinges on the former president, who 80% of the party loves, being indicted. And at first they believed it. But then what happened? He was indicted. And he went nuclear on everybody. Well, not even. That's not nuclear with Trump yet. But wait. He'll show you nuclear if he has to. But the exact opposite of what Team DeSantis had been telling them would happen is what happened. Exact opposite. He did not crater in the polls. They did not abandon him. They circled the wagons, and he is soaring. Surging, as it says here. So now their eyebrow is raised. Because when they go back to him and they say, hey, look, what's the plan? You going to course correct? They're not. They're holding the line. They expect other indictments to come and that eventually one of them is going to hurt him. That's what they believe. And this is not up. Laura does not have this up. Why on earth? There we go. Sorry about that. DeSantis is certainly a better option than Trump at this point, the executive said, but he's a really weak option. The executive said many are growing resigned to the possibility of a general election rematch between Trump and President Joe Biden. Quote, what we probably wind up with is a choice between a guy who is very old and wants to raise our taxes and re-regulate everything, and a guy who could be running from prison, unquote, the executive said. You believe this? You believe these people? A guy who could be running from prison? Again, if you think that ultimately is going to kill him, I don't think you realize the epoch we're living in. Bibi Netanyahu, Nelson Mandela, Lula, the president from Mexico right now, all politically persecuted, thrown in jail, and won elections. In the meantime, any hesitation about DeSantis' viability could be good news for Republicans who have tried to carve out space as business-friendly alternatives to Trump. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley and Senator Tim Scott, another South Carolina Republican who has launched an exploratory committee, has started lining their war chests with checks from major investors, according to campaign filings released in April. During the first quarter, Haley raised about $8.3 million across her campaign. I told you Haley would raise money. Her campaign, joined fundraising committee and her leadership PAC. Scott, the ranking member of the Senate Banking Committee. Oh my God. At least they said it, right? At least they had the decency to put the man's position about the investment and banking industry. At least they had the decency to put the man's position on his committee, the banking committee, in an article about the banking and financial industry backing certain Republicans over Trump and souring on DeSantis. Get this, Scott raised $1.6 million and had $21.9 million on hand through his Senate committee, according to Politico's analysis of the FEC filings. Those funds can easily be transferred to a presidential committee should he formally announce. Scott is a fixture in New York, turning up for meetings at various big banks and is beginning to draw bankers at firms like Goldman Sachs. Bankers say they appreciate both his personal narrative, rising from humble beginnings, and his positive message about the power of American capitalism. Do you believe that load of crap? If you believe that, then I have a bridge to sell you. He's a personal fixture at their little meetings. He's from South Carolina. They literally have competing interests. Still, Scott and Haley's fundraising totals remain modest compared to those of DeSantis-aligned groups. One state-level committee, Friends of Ron DeSantis, have raised more than $85 million on hand. And that's true. What do they expect to do? Carpet bomb the airways. That's what they expect to do. And I'm sure they will put some money to harvesting, maybe, but only, again, nothing that's going to be of serious consequence. Let me ask you, is Dave McCormick's ground game still in place in Pennsylvania? No, it's not. These are, for me and only me, operations. They are not for the good and the viability of the party moving forward. Let's see. For many Republicans on Wall Street, quote, there's a lot of concern about whether Trump will consolidate support in the polls. Are you not paying attention, Ken Spain? A partner at Narrative Strategies who advises investment firms. Then the concern becomes, does that freeze money in the investor class? Do people sit on the sidelines if they think the chance of defeating Trump in a primary is diminishing? Folks, everything we've been talking about, not just for weeks, since the end of 2020, this is where these people still are. They don't care about the need for the Republican Party to build a permanent infrastructure to fix the database latency issues that they are plagued with, thanks to Ronna McDaniel's $1 billion piece of crap. They don't care about that. This is all me. Us. Am I wrong, Laura? That's all this is about. Have you heard one thing yet about the future of the country or a coming financial crisis or a banking meltdown on the horizon or the stability of our NATO alliance, the stability of the current status quo in the international system? They haven't said a damn word about that. Representative Patrick McHenry, Republican North Carolina, who leads the House Financial Services Committee, said in an interview at the Milken Institute Global Conference in Beverly Hills this week that the Trump campaign's tactics over the next 2 months will be well organized, calculated, and surgical. He's not lying. Oh, because I already know where this is going. And this guy says, I'm curious of whether or not he consolidates support. Are you living under a freaking rock? What the hell does this look like to you? Consider it consolidated. The only question is whether or not he'll hold it. And at this rate, why wouldn't he? Wow, there's a lot of questions here. I do think, you know what? Let me just hit Matthew up real quick. Matthew, let's consider this article real quick. And Vivek is increasing support, and that's what the question is about. Is Vivek getting more support the more people hear about him? And let me take this down for a second. Matthew, let's consider what this article is about real quick. A bunch of rich, whiny scumbags bitching they can't stop Donald Trump, when the vast majority of the Republican primary electorate is supporting Donald Trump now. At least the majority, if you believe some of the other polls. He ranges from the mid-50s now to the low 60s. Or low 50s to the low 60s. Let's call it that. To be fair. Even though I've been tracking it since November 2022. And we are actually on the lower end of the spectrum. So the fact that we're now pushing over 60 is significant to me. Vivek is gaining steam talking about these people being a major problem with what is wrong with the country. And their concern is what you're hearing right now. And by the way, what would happen? Would there be a freeze in the 2024 rematch? Oh, cut the crap. There's not going to be a freeze. You're going to give to Joe Biden like you did last time. I'm telling you, Joe Biden put Hillary to shame. And everyone thought back in 2016 that the 3-1 advantage Hillary had on Wall Street was unheard of and unbelievable, but very telling. Well, Biden was 5-1, 6 if you include certain other industries. Securities and it is always in there, banking and insurance only. That sector, insurance, period. Some people do. If you do, it's definitely closer to 6-1. All right. So I do think that it's people, and it's a great question, Matthew. I think there's some people who are, look, the thing with Vivek is most of Vivek's supporters, if you just do a head-to-head, they all go to Trump. Almost all of them. Haley's goes to DeSantis in a head-to-head. Even Pence, his support, most of it goes to Trump. So there are some people who like MAGA but are looking for a different alternative, or like the new right but are looking for a different alternative. And I think that's ultimately why he's rising. Up from nothing. Although he was never polling as bad as Asa Hutchinson. He wasn't. Not in our polling. So I think that's a good observation, that people are just looking for somewhere to look, for somewhere to go. Does Trump consider him for VP? I don't know. I do think that, the Ryans of the world and the Roes and the Rose, I do think they push this fight with DeSantis to the bitter end because they don't give a damn about the future of Ron DeSantis' political career. They don't care. They've convinced him, and I know from someone, I'm not going to get into it, they've convinced him of some of the dumbest. They have convinced, look, in order to make good decisions, you have to at least presuppose or have suppositions later that are based solidly in reason and logic or whatever it may be. They have convinced him of the most illogical, ground level assumptions, and that's a better word, about the atmosphere in this election and what the impact would be moving forward. Several of which being Trump voters will just forgive him. No, they won't. He's finished. Finished. 2, if Donald Trump loses to Joe Biden in 2024, he's going to run anyway again in 28. Absolutely ridiculous. And my favorite, if he wins, he's going to run again in 28. Brush up on your post-Roosevelt constitutional law. But he believes. He believes it. I'll be irrelevant by then. Unbelievable. It's truly something. Astonishing, really. All right. So we just read Ken. This reminds me a lot of 16, where everybody's trying to figure out alternatives to Trump, he said. It is, McHenry's right about that there is obviously analogous to 2016. The truth is they were trying to figure out an alternative in 2020. The president, though, from the White House has the ability, a lot of power, to just box out incumbent challengers. It's basically impossible to beat an incumbent president for the nomination, but it's not like they weren't there. They were there. They never left. They were just lying to you. So when Ken Cuccinelli was on Fox News singing Trump's praise about immigration, he was full of crap. Despite getting a position in an attempt to, make nice with him, he always couldn't stand it. But it isn't like 16 because, Trump never got over 40%. I mean, he never really got a majority, let alone 60. This is much, much, much more dominant. It's also a lot less white. It's not going to be a 2016 primary electorate. Hispanics, African Americans, and Asians are close to about 20% of the Republican primary vote right now. As long as Trump stays on the ballot, they will vote. Those dynamics won't make things any easier for DeSantis, who's been catching flack over everything from the Disney fracas, a self-inflicted wound, one financial industry power broker said, to his arm's-length relationship with key donors and GOP allies in Florida. Quote, I call my donors, I call my supporters, and that's been an issue that people have complained about with him, said Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, a Republican who has flirted with the 2024 bid. This is not a small thing. We hear this all the time from Florida lawmakers. And frankly, from some donors. Even people who have given him a lot of money, he doesn't call them. He doesn't do what is necessary, or, that's why he lost, what's his name in Florida, which I couldn't believe. Greg. Major problems Greg's had in his life. Nothing, not a phone call. How you doing? You're all right. Anna Paula Luna will explain it even better than me. Hears about something that happened to you in your personal life, let alone business, and you're getting a call from Donald Trump, and he's going to say, hey, I was thinking about you. How are you? I want to thank you for your support, and if there's anything you need from me, I'm a phone call away. This politics, folks. It's about people. DeSantis is robotic, callous, in the true sense of the word, and people find him to be rather cold and impersonable. Again, a good friend of mine supports DeSantis, even though he doesn't publicly. He's like, oh, he's super smart. He must be, but I think he's on the spectrum. Well, that's not an excuse. First of all, that's kind of an insult to people on the spectrum. I know plenty of personable people on the spectrum. It's no excuse. He makes people feel like he doesn't appreciate their support. But Scott, Haley, former Vice President Mike Pence, and other potential GOP nominees face their own challenges. While DeSantis has shown he can win big in a swing state, it's a gubernatorial election. They don't freaking matter when it comes to presidential politics. For the love of God, George W. Bush won Texas in 1998 by 40 points. Look up how much he won it against Gore when he was the nominee from his own state. I'll give you a little hint. It wasn't 40 points. Mitt Romney won Massachusetts by 5 against Martha Coakley. How'd that work when he ran against Obama? And Tim was not going to carry Minnesota against Barack Obama had he been the nominee in 2012. Bob McDonnell would not have beaten Barack Obama in Florida, even though he won in 2009 by the same margin that DeSantis won Florida by in 2022. He still would have lost to Barack Obama because guess what? He wasn't going to carry Fairfax County. Not in a presidential election. Tip O'Neill, all politics is local. Anyone with a 4-year political science degree will tell you they're really just talking about gubernatorial elections because the rest of it's not really true. Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, statewide, Maine, New Jersey. You think Governor Christie, having won re-election in New Jersey by the way, more than DeSantis won Florida, do you think he would have carried New Jersey against Barack Obama? New Jersey was one of only 2 states in 2012, along with Hawaii, that voted at a higher margin for Barack Obama in 12 than they did in 2008. You think Chris Christie was going to carry that against him? No. Other nominees have won in Republican strongholds. Many also lack national name recognition that would put them within striking distance of Trump or DeSantis. That's not true. Everybody knows who Mike Pence is. He simply can't get above 5 to 7%. Did you hear Laura? You go, ha! She hates him now. hates Mike Pence. Why? Because Mike Pence told her to her face that he was going to participate in the plan to vote to withhold delegates until investigations went through in 2020. He told her to her face, along with 5 others standing backstage at the Turning Point USA event in Tampa. A couple weeks later, thousands, and then he went on stage, Laura, right? Then he went on stage and told thousands of attendees. I don't even know how many people were there. Thousands. I was doing a speech. It was huge. Huge. Told them, he told those kids, we will fight for every legal vote. Young adults, yeah. Scott is pretty fantastic, and he can perform the way, and if he can perform the way I think he can, he has a real chance. You believe these people? Said one senior banker who was trying to organize support for him, but it's obviously a big hill to climb. Ladies and gentlemen, where is Tim Scott right now? Can we get real? You want that in real percentages? 1.5%. And yes, at some point, Donald Trump was a nothing burger and well down on the totem pole. And it wasn't a matter of name recognition. People didn't know where he stood. Tim Scott is pretty well known among Republican primary voters, and people know where he stands. It's just not going to happen. They live in another world. I mean, Laura's in the other room. You got to hear. They live in another world. It's not reality. All right, let me take a real quick break, and we'll do this after we get back from this break. But it's unbelievable. By the way, Tim Scott believed he wanted Donald Trump to lose. This is the truth, and I'm just telling you from conversations that he had with friends in their own living room. Very many of the same donors that are being quoted, actually. I actually think it would be good for Donald Trump to lose. I know, Biden presidency is going to suck, but we'll survive it. What we can't survive is the damage that Donald Trump is going to do to our brand among Black and brown people. Tim Scott. Right before the 2020 election. And right after it. Let him go. When donors picked up the phone and said, what are you going to do about this? We all know something happened. What are you going to do about it? Yeah, we all know, but there's nothing we can really do about it. And like I said, I think the best thing for everyone here is if, Donald Trump is a one-term president. And how'd that work out for them? Right. But here's the kicker, Laura. He was wrong. This is the thing. Tim Scott was wrong. He wasn't, I think he believed it himself. But I'm saying the evidence is in now. He was wrong. He did better among non-white voters than any of Tim Scott and his friends have done. The shift among Hispanic votes, that's obviously very much driven by Trump. We know that now. Look at how poorly Republicans did in South Texas without Trump on the ballot. Adam Laxalt should have won that election in Nevada. He could not get the Trump Hispanic voter in Clark County. That's what happened to him. And he still lost, watch it. So Tim Scott was just wrong. I don't understand at this point why you wouldn't, at least come back and say, like a man, like when you're wrong, you admit you're wrong like a man, I guess not. There are no more men. Very few. In politics, few and far between, period, let alone in politics. All right, let's take a real quick break. We'll talk more about it when we get back. Authorities fear that extremists are targeting the U.S. power grid. That's according to Time magazine, not the People's Pundit or Breitbart. And if just 9 key substations go down, it could knock out power across the country for up to 18 months. Think about it. Your life would be frozen at the point the lights went out. And that's why you need a solar generator. The new Patriot Power Generator 2000X is portable, but it's powerful enough for your phones, your medical devices, even your refrigerator. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com and get one for 10% off if you use the code TPP10 at checkout. This code is for your first purchase. And that's for patriots.com. Use the code TPP10 to to get your Patriot Power Generator today. See, real quick. Actually, though, let's just, yep. When we're done, we'll come back and we'll obviously talk more about this. Obviously, Wednesday, we're going to be digging into tons of crosstabs. So don't miss it. They're not all done yet. And there's like going to be 3 different ones. So bear with me. But that should be really interesting because so much more I want to go into. Our folks at Jam and Bean, Patriot owned, by the way, also happen to be damn good coffee roasters, are offering an incredible deal to our listeners and viewers. Not sure how much longer it's going to last. It's been going on for about a month now. Take advantage of it while you can. On your new subscription for coffee, tea, popcorn, delicious. Laura, where's my maple syrup? TPP40 at checkout will get you 40% off that initial subscription, the new subscription cost, plus you will still get the People's Pundit 10% renewal discount every month that the subscription is renewed. Again, TPP40 at checkout will get you 40% off your new coffee subscription, whether you're using K-Pods or you're roasting you're getting freshly roasted coffee and grinding your own. TPP40 at checkout. That'll give 40% off any of those. And then you will still get the 10% off on subsequent renewals. Incredible deal. Really is. And of course, send us your comments. We'd like to hear about what flavors you like the best. Whether or not you got the same palate as me. And again, it goes for both. Whether you're like on the go and you need a K-cup, or you like to roast your own personally, or you're like me, I like to do both. Because I like to roast my own, but I don't always have the time to do it. All right. Let's see. Let's get back to really weak option, and then we'll get to the Senate on this, see what the Senate has to say, which is, I think, connected. Okay, what's the point of me reading this? DeSantis allies are taking comfort in the difficulties other candidates could have in breaking through. While there is, quote, some hesitancy from the Wall Street Journal class, unquote, the Florida governor's resources should be enough to sustain any surge from non-Trump competitors, said Jason Thomas, a Republican strategist who runs a pro-DeSantis super PAC. You know, I think that's actually wrong, Jay. I think that's wrong. I don't think that's the case at all. I mean, apparently you were not around for Jeb Bush. Yes, Jeb had money, and yes, DeSantis has more, but what I'm telling you is there's a point where the value just isn't there anymore. People get annoyed by being carpet bombed. If an ad doesn't land the first time, it's not going to land the 8th time you see it. It's just going to piss you off that it's on every single commercial break, right? DeSantis' issues are more fundamental than that. They can't be covered up with relentless TV ads. And by the way, those ads are running in California right now, and they're not helping. If they're 400 interviews, even though DeSantis has shown a willingness to wage public battles against big business, hardly typical of what Thomas labeled a country club Republican platform. Thomas said he expects financial service donors to, quote, eventually come home when DeSantis recaptures his first place position in the nomination process, or is the nominee. Laura's laughing hysterically in the other room. When did he ever capture it? These people live in get off the shrooms, dude. What are you hallucinating on it? Can you puff pass? Send some over here, man. I'm high strung. You're delusional. Getting within 13 points is not being like cause for celebration. Holy crap. Trailing? Yeah, right. Trailing 43-30 is not like jump up and down for joy. So it's important everyone understands this. Even before Trump just decided to like step on people's heads like he is now, the closest he ever got when it ever even looked competitive was 13 points in our polling. And yeah, we didn't poll all the time. So maybe, what was it? The Wall Street Journal poll, who's Trump's angry former pollster, had DeSantis up by 2 once against, by the way, the entire field, the entire consensus of polling, which did not. Yeah. The first executive at the large New York bank said Wall Street would love a candidate like former House Speaker Paul Ryan or a younger Mitt Romney. Folks, I'm so tired
that I literally can't go on enough about this. All right. I'm not really giving it justice. This is a guy who's delusional enough to think, and he runs a DeSantis super PAC. Okay? And he is saying how much that crowd, his crowd, would love Paul Ryan to run for president. A younger Mitt Romney. Where the hell is Barnes? You got to tell Robert that we need a what are the odds every time I got a new poll out. But they acknowledge that Trump would likely obliterate any candidate from the increasingly small center segment of the GOP. We all saw what happened to Jeb Bush, who everybody up here loved. Did you? Did you? Did you really? He got crushed and crushed quickly, and that would just happen again. You don't understand. He's putting DeSantis in the same box. Actually, that's not even fair to say. I know DeSantis supporters aren't going to like to hear this, but it's true. He put himself in that box in the eyes of many Republican voters. Laura, you heard the interviews. You read some of these people's responses who were able to send us their thoughts. You heard them on the other end. They are over. They thought, yeah, okay, maybe it's time to move on from Trump. They were open to it. He's boring. He's deflated. He's weird. He's a rhino now. What's he doing with Jeff Rowe and Paul Ryan? And Jeb? He put himself. This isn't a criticism. It's an observation. This is another thing. DeSantis' supporters never took any, and his advisors, and himself, they never took any constructive criticism. They won't do it from donors who gave them hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they won't do it from people, who are writing columns, podcasts, pollsters doing polls. They don't listen to anyone. They think they got it. They think they're going to win this thing like they won 18. I swear to God, somebody compared that. As if it was totally lost on them that they were going to lose in 18 if it was not for their current primary opponent. It's another world. DeSantis could face another problem, even if he does win substantial financial industry backing. And again, instead of listening, they attacked. And they pissed a bunch of people off. Executives say they worry that raising money or donating to his campaign would give Trump the chance to brandish him as a Wall Street lackey. It's already done. Why do you think Cernovich flew the coop? Yeah, the indictment was the start of it. Did you see Cernovich's reaction? Somebody who was openly supporting Ron DeSantis. They had been in contact, obviously. He was pushing him. Did you see his reaction when he saw that money from Ken Griffin? It's too late now. You take $1 million from Bigelow and then pretend like nothing happened? Ken Griffin? Peter Fye? We know everyone hates us and that nobody running for president wants to be seen as the Wall Street candidate. Where is that? Yep, the first executive said. So you'll probably see a lot of people just sitting this one out. Well, they won't sit it out again when it gets to the general. Like I said, they'll just give to Biden. And if DeSantis was to become the nominee, they would give to both. That's the God's honest truth. All right, so you're not going to get a super pro DeSantis Wall Street. You're going to get a bunch of degenerate gamblers with a ton of money betting on both horses. As usual. Right, Laura? Because when they're two establishment okay candidates, Wall Street hedges and does both. I actually have a chart I could show you about that. Hold on one second. Is it updated? Oh, God, I hope it is. Oh, no, don't. No. I almost unpublished the Republican nomination poll. Whoops. That would have sucked. Wall Street. Let me see. Wall Street donations by party. That's to Congress. Let's see. There are two of them. This one was edited 8 months ago. I don't know what it was updated with, but let me see. Before I share this, let me see if I can get this up. Yeah, so let me show you what happens. Oh, I'm so glad I found this. Let me show you what happens when it's candidates that, are parties, by the way. This is Congress, but generally following the trend. All right. Except for 2016, which part of the story we actually brought this up. In 2016, they were still hedging and giving to Republicans when they were absolutely giving to Hillary Clinton in massive disproportionate margins. Okay. Here's dating all the way back to 1990. As you can see, doesn't matter about the Republican Revolution. They still gave more to Democrats, but they were hedging. See how they were hedging? Even when Republicans went up, so did Democrats, right? Here's a year where Republicans went up slightly. Democrats didn't really go down all that much, $300,000. The difference was there was what going on in 96, right? And, they were generally on par when they increased that. So Republicans were trailing for 3 cycles before as far as contributions from Wall Street. And then, we had some blips here. Here's 2000 with George Bush, but generally still gave quite a bit to Al Gore and not a huge disparity. In the 2004 campaign, they gave a ton more to Democrats than they did Republicans. Started with that, that the Iraq War, stuff like that. But generally speaking, you can see them hedging. In the era of Barack Obama, Mitt Romney raised a good amount of money. Really what happened, however, was that Wall Street had given Barack Obama so much in 2008 because they knew he was going to win. Everybody knew he was going to win. What happened was Romney was able to hold kind of the line against, tough go here, and he was able to raise a ton more than most. This is Mitt Romney. It's his world, right? So he was able to raise a ton more, and Wall Street wound up giving a lot less to Barack Obama because of some of the policies. But, they did not give it at $35 million, folks. They did not forsake him. Time goes on and the money gets more and more each year. And we start to see parity again until Trump's bid. And it was just as recent in 2016. Republicans got more money from Wall Street than Democrats did in the 2016 elections. However, while this was going on, they still gave Hillary more than Trump by a 3-1 margin. All right. And then Democrats favored to win in 2018. They gave them more. Right. And down the line. 2020, Democrats were expected to take the House. They did not. In fact, they lost seats. But with Trump on the ballot, he was able to hold quite a bit. So here you have it. It is only in the era of Trump where this disparity grows tremendously. But when it's just like, a DeSantis versus Joe Biden, both very much okay with the status quo. K Street and Wall Street are cool with both of these guys. To be honest, they are. So they would give respectfully to each candidate. It would not be like it was for Joe Biden against Donald Trump. All right. And I remember seeing the numbers. It's on People's Pundit Daily. It's absolutely astonishing how much Wall Street backed Biden over Trump. All right. So let's go back to this other article. And then I will get to some of the questions here that I see Laura dumped in there. I don't know why, Laura, but it's all right. I got you. I'll hit him. All right. I do need a quick water break, though.
All I want to say is keep it up, and I'll put lots of questions in there.
I know you will. That's why I shut up.
You're wise beyond your years.
Senate Republicans say former President Trump is consolidating his support in the Republican Party and now looks more likely to become the party's nominee in 2024 despite his legal problems. Wait a minute. I thought they were, Wall Street is still worried about whether Trump is going to consolidate it. Here you have the Senate, Senate Republicans are not just rhinos. That's not a correct way to label them. They're not really Republicans. Very few of them are Republicans. For the most part, the vast majority of the Republican conference in the Senate is a bunch of liberals. Trump has doubled his polling lead over his closest rival, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, since Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg indicted him on March 30th. During that time, the former president has picked several prominent endorsements in Congress, including, I think they meant to say picked up, right? They meant to say picked up, including the support of National Republican Senatorial Committee Chairman Steve Daines. Big deal, by the way. Republican senators and GOP strategists say Daines' endorsement is a sign that Trump is viewed as the favorite to win the party's presidential nomination in 2024. Absolutely. And in fact, I got to tell you, I mean, after the election, Republicans were disappointed and they really did believe that they were going to be able to take Trump out. That's when people like Tom McClintock said, it's time to move on from Trump. I'm going to back DeSantis. Now, there are people who want you to who are trying to put out the vibe that McClintock and other California Republicans are rethinking this effort to derail Trump in California. Why? It's very simple. They're afraid he's going to win anyway. And if he wins anyway, they're going to look dumb in their own states. They're going to be embarrassed. And then two, they're going to get, let me put it this way. Trump is going to make them pay. And if you want to be in the orbit and have a say in anything, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump put like a hot poker on the fireplace and like made Tom and others bend over to get DJT branded in their ass before they were able to come and talk to him. He's pissed, and rightfully so. These are people who needed his endorsement and begged him for his endorsement. The only one who really didn't solicit it at all is Kevin Kiley. Those two were just playing golf, and the president was like, I like this guy. He's getting my endorsement. He was running against Jones, who Larry Elder was supporting, and the establishment did really want Jones to win. Kevin Kiley is kind of a stickler in the state legislature. He's really a conservative. He would put his foot down. He tried to go after the gas tax over and over again, which why wouldn't Republicans love that? Because they're full of crap. They're really a bunch of liberals in California. They want to blame Democrats and Gavin Newsom for the gas tax, but when it comes up for a vote, they don't actually want to be put on the spot to vote, and Kevin Kiley would do stuff like that to them. So they wanted Jones. But even Kiley was like, from what I hear, apparently I'm trying to get it definitively. And somebody told me it's common knowledge, Rich. Stop asking everybody. It's common knowledge that Kiley is in on the plan. And I'm like, no way. I just want to hear it solidly because I think, first of all, he deserves that. But second of all, not that I find it hard to believe. I don't. I guess to some extent, backstabbing in politics never ceases to never fully ceases to amaze me. Let me put it that way. Because in my world, and this is just part of how I grew up, loyalty is a big thing. And this is why Trump is the way he is with loyalty too. You come from New York City in that game. You come from the working class streets of Jersey, or it don't matter if your father's a wealthy real estate owner, Queens. Loyalty is a big deal because it's so, I'm sorry, I didn't know you took it off. Loyalty is a big deal because it's so uncommon. And you give it first, you're expected to give it to people you think are your friends, or, it's understood. And then they are expected not to stab you in the back. And if you do stab someone in the back, then you get there's consequences for it. I don't know. That's apparently not everywhere. And it's certainly not in every industry. And in politics, I guess it never fully ceases to amaze me because I never want to be normalized to something like that. Do you? Do you guys? I mean, you know what I mean, guys? Of course, it's politics, and politicians are scumbags. But do you ever really want to let yourself get fully normalized to that? I don't. Not me. What's that, Laura? What's that? Yeah, hop in. What do you get?
I was just saying that first of all, this shouldn't be normal anywhere. There should be no such thing as where betrayal is oh, okay.
Betrayal is a bad thing. Yeah. It's a bad thing.
That's number one on my list. And the world should not be so desensitized desensitized by it and
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
like this happens often and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I
when
gotta, oh, go
that,
ahead. Go ahead. No,
why
finish.
don't you first?
Oh, I was just gonna say that if you're willing to betray another politician, I don't know why you can't easily make the leap to betray a voter you've never even heard or met or know or whatever. Like you just convince them to vote for you. You know what I mean? Like that's why so many people, and this is why Rush brought up this like bond Trump has with voters all the time, the late Rush Limbaugh, because nobody else took that relationship seriously. And when people in DC and on Wall Street are wondering, like, oh my God, what's wrong with these people? It really is, when you're interviewing them, it really is as simple as the guy never lied to us.
And he came through on his promise.
Yeah, he never betrayed us. And it's like they don't get it because it's what you just said. They have normalized it. It isn't that big of a deal. But it is to like the rest of the country. It is, or at least to the rest of the Republican
And
electorate.
that's also a number one reason why they hate him so much, because now they actually have to produce on what they say, because now people are angry because we now see that it is possible to
have someone who keeps their promises.
Yes, amen. And come through and see the results of it as well. And when the results come through, they're also beneficial results, not halfway like,
Yeah.
like, what was it when Barack Obama was like so excited? He was like, yeah, the debt ceiling decrease. When you're already in the red.
Yeah. Oh, the deficit you're talking about. Right. Yeah. And the thing too is with them is that betrayal is okay as long as it's not against them. And this is something Don King said. It was a friend of Trump, and I can't believe he articulated it so well. I never would have thought in a million years it would come from Don King, but he was so right. And I remember him saying something that was super profound. I wonder if I still have that video. I think I do. I should play it. But it's like they can do whatever they want to the country. They can betray whoever. They expect politicians to lie to voters and then betray them. You just can't betray them when you're one of them. So Trump is like considered one of them. This system is like built for the white male who's rich, and he's just supposed to enjoy his privilege. You can't betray them or the system, the status quo, for the dirty, unwashed masses.
Yes.
You can't do that. And if you do, they're going to try to make a terrible example out of you. And
look at all these lawsuits that they've thrown at him.
This poor man. Look at the felony charges on him. I mean, misdemeanors that they want to pretend are found. Did you guys hear Trump's testimony in this trial, the one that Laura's talking about, the rape lawsuit trial? He flatly said, I'm not going to lie, I fell out laughing. He flatly said her lawyer went to the stand and tried to make him look like a misogynist, like a scumbag. And he was like, you said she would not be your first choice. And he was just like, she was like, what did you mean by that? And he's like, everything, like the whole package. He was like, it's not my, she's not my caliber. She doesn't meet my standard. And he's like, no offense, neither do you.
I love it.
I almost fell out. I'm like, oh my God, he really just told the lawyer under oath she's ugly and he'd never touch her. Oh my God. I'm like dying. Hold on. Let me see if I can get that Don King video, because I am not articulating it as good as somebody like Don King can. And because why? Why is that? Probably because he's a successful black man who knows the system, better than others. I do have it. Oh my God. Here it is. Let me stop sharing this. My God. Let me stop sharing this and let me pull this up. Hold on. It's an ad. Let me go through the ad first and then we'll do it. I can't believe I still have this. Holy moly. Yeah, I sure as hell do. I want to play you guys this clip. Forget about sharing this for a second. We'll come back to what the good senators have to say in a second. This is Don King. Man, I can't believe it. Is it this one? Sure is. All right, I'm going to play this from Don King. Let's listen to him. And
He says it. He says it in a nutshell. 7 minutes. I don't think we're going to do that, but we'll play a good chunk of it. As soon as I put the volume on.
And a legend in the boxing world, and now he's here for an exclusive interview to promote tomorrow night's fight, the WBC Super Light title, and of course talk the business of boxing and how great America is. Once again, Don King, welcome to the show.
I'm just delighted to be here. This is a delight for me to be back home at Channel 5. This is really fantastic. Hi, Rupert. Oh, Rupert.
Let me ask you about Don King. You were one of the first supporters of Don King. You vigorously campaigned for him, and you tried to convince the American people he
Donald
would be
Trump.
something special. Has he lived up to all the hype?
More than that, he has given us an opportunity. No one has carried the type of a lightning rod activity since the founding colonies. The 13 colonies wrote a letter to King George saying they wanted to be discharged so they could be eliminated and be independent Americans. What Donald Trump has done, this is my man, let's look at it. He has, not that he's an angel, but the fact of the matter is he's bringing out all the racism, all of the critics, everybody that wants to destroy him.
Not that he's an angel.
And in the process of the zeal of destroying Trump, stop and destroy Trump, they would stop and destroy his family and any friends or launch any supporters that help him. It brings out all of the divisiveness. It brings out the hatred. It brings out all of these different things that we can now administer to. Why do I say that? Because the first thing that Donald Trump said that touched my heart, and it should touch every American's heart, is we will create a whole new system. We will take this system apart. I want to make America great again, and America first. Now, what does that mean? That means the entire system. Everyone agrees that the system is corrupt.
Right.
Everyone, the Republicans, the Democrats, the independents, the atheists, all agree that the system is corrupt. But only one man had the guts, the intestinal fortitude, to challenge the system to say, we want to remove you and bring about change.
Right.
Secondly, no power in this country supported Trump to be president. How did he get to be president? The will of the people and the prayers for change and the interposition of God that's touched Trump. Because Trump got as much business being president as, it's just almost impossible. And that's why everybody's in shock and disarray, because he is not what they would have considered to be a president. Yet, when God touched him as he did Gideon, he is now the president of the United States. Like him or dislike him, give him a chance to fail. But in the process, they say, oh, Don, he's a racist. He's Don. He's dividing. No, we're already divided.
Sure.
You mean you got a system that's he attacked that no one has the guts to attack. And
he's still attacking it. I mean, every week he says something or says, I'm going to do something, and everyone goes crazy. Everyone knows China is ripping us off. So he says, let's fight back. And now both sides, Republicans and Democrats, all the experts are saying, no, we don't do it like that. But they don't have a solution.
When I first started traveling worldwide years ago, everywhere I would go, they would say Yankee imperialists. They were all calling us imperialists. And when they taught me, they said, declare war on America, then establish the Marshall Plan. So what we found out is the system of white supremacy, hate, and control. You would grab all these countries, because we got troops everywhere in the world. How could we be in $1 trillion worth of debt? Because we're trying to make people do our will in order to take control of them.
Right.
Donald Trump is trying to take us out of that because he is a lightning rod. He's unpredictable. He's uncontrollable. He can't be intimidated or coerced. He can't be bought. And only people you have to answer to is the American people. The lobbyists can't get him, the super PACs, the pharmaceuticals, the insurance, the Wall Street finance. He has no obligation to any of them. So therefore, he is working for the benefit of the people. Secondly, what's most important,
and I think it's coming now, but it's like I'm letting it play because everything he's saying is just so spot on. Right, Laura? Right? Everything he said was so spot on. Let's just keep playing. I think it's coming up now, but he's saying is most important.
Donald Trump, white, blonde, blue-eyed, rich, is what the system was created for.
Yeah,
he forsake this system. They feel that he's a betrayer. He forsake the system because his love of the American people and his respect for America, which makes him, they put out a mandate, destroy Trump no matter what the cost. I don't know what the cost in lives, I don't know what the cost in human values, I don't know what the cost in property, whatever the cost is. He destroyed, stop Trump and all of his family and his supporters. So this is what you can see. If the America got to step back, realize that, didn't deal with all these idiosyncrasies of the politicians. And that's why I'm so proud of those kids from Parkland School out there, Marjorie Stoneman and Parkman Douglas School, High School. They're standing up against the politicians. We send them to Washington to represent us, then to help us to resolve the problems. They become a part of the problem. We sent them there to represent us for.
Ooh, oh man. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he just you see what I'm saying? Like because his experience is different than my experience, and it's coming from a different place. So what he's saying, he can put it better than I could ever put it, obviously. But nailed it. And he said he forsaked the system that is built for him. You're supposed to just shut up and love it, you know? And that's it, man. That's it. That's it in a nutshell.
Beautifully.
I mean, that's it.
The very people he listed are the very people who are attacking.
Right now we know it's
now,
6. Oh, we're 6 years later. He was totally right.
He was right on.
Right on the money. Right on the money. Man, Bill, he's been around. The guy's been around, you know. So of course he was. He's been around. All right, so I think that his nomination is inevitable, or they say. All right, so they say the leader of the Senate Republican campaign arm wants to have a good working relationship with him to maximize the chances of winning back control of the Senate. So see, it's really not that Steve Daines absolutely loves Donald Trump. It's that Steve Daines sees that Donald Trump, and by the way, Steve Daines should know firsthand the difference of being on the ticket with Trump versus not. And he does, of course. So, you know, this is about what can Trump do for them. This is not about what they can do for Trump and whether or not, Trump's in the best interest of their voters and the voters want him. No. We did very poorly. This means, by the way, they know what I've been telling you about the performance, the underperformance of their Senate candidates in 2022. They know I'm telling you the truth. They know that Barnes and I, who have gone on and on about how Trump gives more than he ever gets, and that the Republican Party is a party of losers without him. That's all they've been good at for years. So I just think that his nomination is inevitable. I really do. He's going to be the nominee. I'd be stunned if he's not, said one Republican senator who requested anonymity to discuss the primary and hasn't yet endorsed a candidate. You've seen the numbers. I've talked to voters. People are beginning to recognize that. Steve Daines' endorsement reflects that reality. He's going to be the nominee. We want him to work with us, the senator added. Trump led DeSantis by an average of 16 points on March 30, the day Bragg indicted him in New York, according to national polls analyzed by Real Clear Politics. By May 1st, Trump's average polling lead over his rival had grown to nearly 30 points. We're now at 40. 43, something like that. No, he was at 17 flat. If he remains at 17 flat, it would be 44 points. It's more than just the indictment. I got to stop and always point this out everywhere I see it. Yes, obviously, the indictment had an impact, and it had an impact, unfortunately, for DeSantis with the voters DeSantis was making inroads with or trying to. And now those older voters who are thinking, God, I'm in the Mr. Reinsch's mindset, and the world I never thought would get this bad, and the country would never do something like this, is now saying they obviously did do this. And it's like ride or die with Trump, or else I'm going to leave my kids and grandkids a crappy America. So that's where they're at. That's that group. But there was just a series of events. His reaction to the indictment probably had a bigger impact than the actual indictment itself. I don't know yet, but I'm saying it certainly had a significant impact. And then also there were just these missteps. You know, again, Tucker's off the air now. What a surprise. He was the one who really illuminated this. I want to say pretender. I don't know what else to say, Laura. When one day you're trying to sound like somebody because you want to beat them in a primary. So you say something like,
It's not our business. Ukraine is a territorial dispute. And then the media and the establishment wig out on you, the big donors wig out on you, and you flip-flop, but you flip-flop back to your original position. Because of course, do I have it? I don't know if I still have it. I thought I had it up for Robert. Yeah, here it is. Because of course, this is DeSantis urging then Secretary of State John Kerry to basically move ahead with the coup operation, right next to Adam Kinzinger and Tom Cotton. So you're flip-flopping back to your original position. And that is, Ukraine is a big deal in the Republican primary. War is a big deal in the Republican primary. It's going to be a big deal in the general election. If you get seen as a neocon or an interventionist, you're done. So DeSantis flip-flopped and went back to his original position, which Barnes and I played video clip of from, a year before DeSantis was ever being considered a presidential pick, when he, echoed what he wrote in his book about, his worldview that Putin's a war criminal and, we got to stop him over there so we don't fight him over here nonsense. That's not going to fly. Senator Lindsey Graham, who is endorsing Trump's presidential bid, said the former president, quote, seems to be consolidating his support in the party. He's certainly growing, if you believe in polling, and you hear it on the ground too. Part of it was a reaction to the New York prosecution. He became a victim of an out-of-control left-wing prosecutor, and it gave him a bump, he said. Now, does he sustain this? I'm supporting him, but, it depends on how DeSantis engages. Does he run? If he runs, what campaign does he run? Graham added. Some Trump allies are speculating that DeSantis may decide not to challenge Trump after all, given the former president's huge polling lead. DeSantis said Friday he will make a decision relatively soon. You've got to put up or shut up, he said at a news conference. Or you've got to put up or shut up on that. A second Republican senator who has stayed neutral and requested anonymity, what a bunch of cowards, to discuss the race, agreed that Trump is the clear favorite heading into next year's election. The senator said Daines wants to get ahead of the pack in endorsing Trump to increase the odds of working with him to help flip the Senate. In other words, again, Steve Daines and the NRSC have concluded that what I have been arguing and what I have been telling all of you all along is in fact the accurate argument. The DeSantis argument and the anti-Trump argument, we lose every time with Trump. We lost in 18. We lost in 20. We lost in 22. In 2018, the Republicans, because of Donald Trump, put up the best midterm performance in the Senate for an incumbent party since JFK. And had they won Arizona, you would have had to go back, it was a few thousand votes? You would have had to go back to FDR to find a first-term incumbent performance that strong. So stupid. If it wasn't for Donald Trump, the current governor of Florida right now, who is the other side of this coin, would not be the governor of Florida. Rick Scott might have lost to Bill Nelson. Rick Scott ran a flawless campaign. He did. It was a great campaign. But Bill Nelson was a 3-term incumbent senator. His moderate image was damaged. It was. It's still hard to beat an incumbent senator. It's very difficult. And he did it. I'm sure the 3 trips to save Ron DeSantis from losing to a crackhead on the down low under federal investigation for actual felony crimes didn't hurt Rick Scott either. The lawmaker said, I assume Trump will be the candidate on the Republican presidential ticket in next year's general election. The senator said a growing sense of Trump's inevitability likely drove the recent decisions by Daines and Senator Marsha Blackburn. Well, Marsha, you better endorse Trump. Look at your state. Bill Haggerty, Tennessee. And by the way, the Vanderbilt poll isn't even that good. It's SSRS. They're not a great poll. They've underestimated Trump's support for a long time. They actually had DeSantis leading a couple months ago. Now it's a blowout. It's a blowout. I don't even know what it is. It's like 35 points. Bill Haggerty and Mike Braun in Indiana to back Trump's third White House bid. Again, Bill Haggerty is being smart, but Mike Braun, He won and he beat Todd who was a sitting congressman for the nomination, because Mike Braun was painting himself as a Midwest version of Donald Trump. More folksy, the independent-minded businessman who doesn't own anybody from Jasper, Indiana. That's what he painted himself as. Just like the president, his ads would roll on about. I didn't make my living in the public sector as a politician, a career politician. I'm responsible for employees. I built a beautiful business, a successful business. But he did it with the folksy look. He wasn't at all brash about it. And he beat Todd when nobody else thought he could. Our poll, I think, Laura, was the one and only poll that got Braun right in the primary and also in the general election. Joe Donnelly by 7, right, Fox News? Wasn't even close. We had Braun up by, I think, 6. I think he won by 5 or something. Ballpark. A Republican strategist said Daines wants to have a good relationship with Trump so they can work together to get to back the most electable candidates in next year's Senate primaries. It looks like Daines is working to try to point Trump to some of the stronger candidates in Senate races, the strategist said. One of the GOP senators who endorsed Trump privately expressed reservations about his electability in an interview with The Hill shortly after he launched his presidential campaign in November. This electability argument makes me laugh. He already was elected. He's the only Republican in a lifetime, 4 decades, to demonstrate the ability to upend the electoral map. And then these others come along. They remind me of like the Jews who followed Moses, Laura. I'm serious. Like, just because Moses could do it, it's like they got used to this idea that maybe they didn't need Moses. And I don't mean to compare Trump to Moses. I'm saying human nature in general. Like they forgot they were losers. They forgot they couldn't carry Wisconsin. They forgot they didn't have a snowball's chance in hell to carry the state of Michigan. John McCain thought he was going to carry Minnesota. This is how delusional these people are. Mitt Romney really believed that fake poll that was used against him to go to Pennsylvania in the final days of the campaign. He believed it. I know that whole inside story. It burned a consultant forever. But they got him out there, didn't he? He thought he was going to win New Hampshire. Why? Because Neil Newhouse, who is a Republican pollster who built up public opinion strategies, which is pushing out all those pro-DeSantis polls without crosstabs. That's them. Neil Newhouse said everybody was wrong. Every other public poll was wrong. He was right. The lawmaker said he wanted to wait and see if Trump can move past his obsession over what he claimed was widespread fraud in the 2020 election. It's so funny. I wonder who this off-the-record lawmaker is, because they all believe there was fraud in the election in 2020. They all did. They all did. Or at least they told donors that when the donors were calling and screaming at them to do something. Trump still regularly claims, without evidence, that he lost the last election because of fraud. But Senate Republicans' concerns about his electability against President Biden, have waned. An Economist YouGov poll of 1,500 adults nationwide conducted April 29th and May 2nd showed Trump and Biden tied in a hypothetical matchup, while it showed Biden was ahead of DeSantis by 3 points. No, it showed that Trump was ahead. Excuse me. Hold on. Let me correct the record. That's wrong. I'm telling you, I'm 90% sure that is wrong. Give me 1 second. Yep. It's wrong, baby. I'm telling you. Wait. I'm telling you, I am very... Oh, it's YouGov? Okay, you're right. DeSantis down by 3. Trump and Biden tied. And again, why it's the Economist YouGov poll, it is going to get a wider sector of the audience, the population than it would if it was just a phone-only poll, like the Wall Street Journal poll, like the ABC poll, like the NBC poll. These people are only using live caller to older landlines and then younger self-educated people who pick up cell phones. If it's an online component in the poll, you are going to be seeing DeSantis doing worse and Trump doing better. And that is because of this group that simply will not talk to pollsters. That's how ABC News got Biden plus 17 in the state of Wisconsin. Not only Donald Trump doing well in the primary, and he's clear frontrunner in the primary, he's also beating Joe Biden in the general election 47-43, said Jim McLaughlin, Trump's pollster of his firm's polls on a hypothetical rematch of the 2020 election. Our polling never had Trump ahead in the general in either 2016 or 2020. Listen, before we go on with what he said, this is a big deal. We never had Donald Trump ahead in 2020. Never. We had our final poll for the Epoch Times national poll was Biden plus 4. Biden won by 4. We did think that Trump had a good chance at the Electoral College, even with COVID and harvesting and vote by mail, but we never had him ahead. In 2016, we did in fact have him ahead. Now, they traded leads constantly, and I showed you that trend. I'll show it to you again, but it was a competitive race, even with the popular vote at the national level. In the end, Hillary took it, which I'm actually not that surprised, because I think what happened in our polling is a lot of the undecideds who was forced to decide, it's a tracking poll, forced to decide. A bunch of them who were younger went with Gary Johnson, and I think in the end of the day, some of them lied to us. But even with that, if you weighted California for more recent, I mean, the problem was we didn't have, we had the American Community Survey. We didn't have a brand new census. So if you weighted California for a higher share of the nationwide vote, instead of like an, like an 08 or 04, even 12 share of the vote, then we would have gotten Hillary plus like 1.5 or something like that, ballpark, because Hillary crushed it in these areas. Hillary's entire popular vote margin came from 2 metro areas. That's it. So, it's important to note what John is saying here, or Jim, excuse me. What Jim is saying is very noteworthy, because the share of the third party vote being very high in 20 wasn't there. It wasn't there. And we had Trump up more than down in 16 because of that third party vote share. We never polled head to head. It was pointless. It wasn't a head to head race. Never was. A lot of folks don't understand. It's pretty amazing. People are supposed to be smart. Why Donald Trump is as popular as he is, especially amongst the base. The reason is because he had a successful presidency. Voters agreed with him on the issues. That's actually a very easy, succinct way to put it, what Laura and I were just talking about. Right, Laura? That's really it. That's what it comes down to. Trump has compiled 11 Senate Republican endorsements, while DeSantis, who has yet to formally announce his plans to run for president, has yet to secure any strong Senate support. Listen, can we cut the crap with this? He's not running. He's soliciting endorsements, and the PAC is soliciting money. This idea that he's not really in the race, but soon he'll be, is a load of crap. What splash do you think you're going to make with your announcement? The head bobble? You're going to put out we're selling bobbleheads for $9.95. You're more likely to hurt yourself with the dumb bobblehead look. Senator Mike Lee, Republican of Utah, hosted a meet and greet event for DeSantis in Washington, April 18th. The only other senator to show up was Senator John Cornyn, who will be primaried and defeated in the next election, who said afterward that he doesn't plan to endorse in next year's presidential primary, which, of course, what that really means is he's scared of losing his seat. I have some good news. I did speak to somebody who was fairly convinced that the person who originally, it's not just one person, it's a very close source. At the end of the day, Paxton may not go for governor because there's a popular lieutenant governor who Trump really likes. Trump loves Ken Paxton anyway, but I'm saying, or Trump world loves him, and I know Trump thinks very highly of him. At the end of the day, Ken Paxton may be the one who primaries Cornyn. The other option will be Chip Roy, who will go on to lose because Trump will endorse Ken Paxton, and Ken is a better coalition. It's just that it really is the truth. Paxton has more traditional Republicans, non-MAGA Republicans, but he also has MAGA Republicans. So they're just that like Club for Growth wing that Chip Roy represents, that old school conservative Club for Growth, pro Club for Growth, free trade it to the end. I don't think they can compete with Ken Paxton. I think it would be, a competitive race, but I think Paxton's going to win, even if it has to go to a runoff. And I think, by the way, Ken, if you're listening, the smart play is to go for Senate. That is true. All right. Senator Mike Lee, Republican of Utah, because, Patrick is popular. You don't want to get into a primary fight with the lieutenant governor. He's more popular than the governor is with the base. Senator Mike Lee, Utah, hosted a meet and greet, and only that guy showed up, right? Some of Trump's critics in the Senate leadership, in the Senate GOP leadership, argue that it's too soon to declare Trump the party's likely nominee. I think the polls are going to be very fluid. Did this person give his name? Yeah, it was John Thune. Mitch McConnell's ass wiper. Yep, John Thune has been Mitch McConnell's personal ass wiper for years, because when the old crusty Mitch puts his hat down finally for the last time, John Thune thinks he's going to be the majority leader of the U.S. Senate. All right, so this is what Bannon was talking. This is what Steve was saying, Laura. Like, and look who comes racing, because I didn't read the whole thing when Bannon was like, "You got to see this." It's John Thune. Of course it is. I think the polls are going to be very fluid. They have been already. No, they haven't. Coming out of November, DeSantis was ahead. He was not ahead with everywhere. He was ahead with a select few of polls that you guys put out there. Against the overall grain, he was never ahead. Now Trump's ahead. I just think there's a lot of volatility in the electorate right now. And I think national polls are probably going to be a little misleading. No, they're not. Presidential primary polling is very clear. National polls lead state movement. President's stuff is all by state. No crap. And again, I will repeat this again for the moron from South Dakota. Presidential polling has been very clear for decades and decades and decades. National polling is a leading indicator, and the states follow suit. Any candidate does not have a 40-point lead nationally and be vulnerable in the competitive primary states. That would be unheard of, folks. Unheard of. Thune acknowledged Trump, quote, has got a formidable position, and he's got a very loyal following, but argued, I think there are an awful lot of people that are up for grabs too. Well, that was the case in November. You see, David Giglio, if you're listening, David, you were right, Giglio. They wanted to lose, despite everything I was trying to say, like they didn't want MAGA in Congress, and I still maintain that. But David was right, because at the end of the day, to them, losing is a small price to pay for having a narrative you could use against Donald Trump later so he's not the nominee. So it's all right to feed Blake Masters and Herschel Walker and Mehmet Oz. It's all right to feed them to the wolves. It's all right to get a smaller majority in the House, as long as we have something that we could use against Donald Trump so we can prevent him from being the nominee. To them, I'm not saying I'm willing to bet. I'm telling you that's more important to them than a majority of Congress. Because you can hear it in Thune's voice. He's hearkening back to the narrative. David was always like, listen, they're creating this narrative, and then they're going to say this, and then it happened, and they're still doing it. It's like you create the loss, and then you blame him for losing. You understand what I'm saying? That's what they're doing. That's what they did, Laura. Where am I here? I lost it here. It re-upped. Because we're almost done anyway. And locals, keep an eye out. I got some stuff I'm going to pop up there for you guys to see. Whit Ayers, a prominent Republican pollster, said the possibility of additional indictments against Trump by the Department of Justice and the Fulton County District Attorney in Georgia could swing the race away from Trump, predicting that charges from those prosecutors would have more credibility than Bragg's indictment. And again, this is Cernovich would call you an idiot. You don't know how persuasion works, and you don't know how cognitive biases work. Bragg's indictment should not have come first. It's so bogus that from now on, anything they hit Trump with is going to just appear to be fake and an effort to keep him off the ballot. I've been telling you myself that I don't know whether or not that's going to hurt either. I just don't know how it would. Right? People seem to have an inevitable tendency to jump to premature conclusions well before we know many of the key elements of a campaign environment. And that's an attempt to make you sound smarter than you are. What might be the political effects of serious felony indictments backed up a mountain of compelling evidence? What compelling evidence? What are you doing? He's calling, see, this is a Republican pollster now calling the January 6th protest an attack on the Capitol. And he said he tried to interfere in the 2020 election in Georgia. I know lawyers who were on that call. That's bullshit. You're a liar, sir. You're not even a Republican. Just stop pretending like you are. And pardon my French, ladies and gentlemen, but this is a scumbag of the highest order. There were people on this call from Brad Raffensperger, his legal people. And Brad hates Trump. So does his right-hand butt buddy. Hates Trump. All the way to Trump World and others in between. He did not do anything that is against the law on that phone call. As Daniel Street and Mike Davis went over in great detail on the show last month. Two incredibly talented lawyers who have been around. One intimately familiar with this state and the neighboring state, considering it's his home state. This isn't news. This isn't a public pollster or even a Republican pollster attempting to give his objective opinion about something. This is a never Trump dirtbag who's mad he doesn't have the clientele anymore. And he's like, are you serious? He tried to interfere with the election and the Capitol attack was a terrorist attack. Are you not even a serious person, dude? Shut the fuck up. You're not even a serious person. I'm sorry. Again, I'm sorry, people. Pardon my French. That's not a serious man. That's a low-life piece of shit. You've got to be joking me. Give your objective opinion. But you can't be objective, which is why you seriously think that further indictments are more likely to hurt him than help him. You think a bunch of rabid Soros district attorneys in Fulton County, accused of being racist, by the way, indicting him on a bogus accusation about a phone call that a dozen people heard and said there was nothing wrong with. You think that's more likely to hurt him with the Republican electorate? You're out of your mind. 50-something% in the ABC News poll said that they actually thought Donald Trump did something wrong and Bragg was right to indict him. I don't believe that. That's their mode of collection. If you do it with different modes, you're going to get a lot lower than that. Yet, many of these people said they'll still vote for him. It's just a complete misunderstanding of the world that we live in today. And that's not how cognitive biases work, sir. You're supposed to be a public opinion expert. Do you know what a cognitive bias is? Are you familiar at all with that term? Holy crap. Woo! Unbelievable. Joel's got a great comment on Tim Scott. Duly noted. If you have Tucker and Lake on the poll question I wrote, I will get huge money those to lead the poll. I don't know. Oh, you're saying you want me to poll the VP's race and that you think it would raise money and put whether or not it should be Kerry Lake. You know what? I mean, at some point, I like that idea. I like the idea of polling Republicans and Democrats, but Democrats have a vice president. So I wonder how long or further RDS's numbers have to slide to force him to bow out. Or will he? Do they push him to fight to the bitter end? Again, yeah, I do think that. Matthew, are you seeing that Vivek getting more support than people here? Oh, yeah, I think I got to that already. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure. We begin the public polling project question. Faith in local institutions, the national institutions were all 25 to 30%. But what about localities, the VFW? There's not enough people that are familiar with that stuff of Freemasons, food pantries, things. There's not enough people. The PTA, that's a different story. VFW, Dustin, may even be a different story. We do have some local stuff, though, like your local health professionals, local police, stuff like that. And I think we're coming up on that soon. Trust in institutions is supposed to be done in the spring. Crap, we may have missed it, actually, this time, but we could always throw it in there. Do I have any inkling on what the primary polls would look like if RDS does not run? There wouldn't be yeah. It would be like Trump would be in like the 80s. Yeah. It's high 70s, low 80s. I got to know what you think about Team RDS's strategy of calling Trump the establishment candidate. It's a loser. Big time loser. You can't call Trump the establishment candidate when you have Paul Ryan standing next to you, Jeb Bush in the other room saying, please clap for you, and Ken Griffin writing a check to you. It's a loser. Will Rich be able to get into RFK's strategy this week? I thought he had some interesting takes with going directly at the CIA, accusing them of assassinations and rigging elections. Where's the second part to that? Yeah, I think we will. We're going to, because we haven't had a chance to talk about the Democratic nomination. We'll talk more about that. RFK's already, he's got a chunk. He's, like I said, Marianne Williamson's not catching. Doesn't look like she is catching that much. Let me see. It's probably all white voters too. And she's got 3.2% among white Democratic primary voters. Let me see. Come on, load up. So it's not just that they hate Biden or don't like Biden, not hate Biden. We got Biden at 61. That's it. Marianne Williamson's at 3.7. Someone else is almost 10. And Robert Kennedy Jr. is probably going to end up somewhere around 18, something like that. And again, huge chunk who will vote for Robert Kennedy. And if they had the chance, would it be DeSantis or Trump? They would vote for, Trump or Biden. They would vote for Biden. So that's interesting. I think that Robert's entire strategy of embracing, reaching out to RFK's voters is a smart strategy. Which of the following potential VP candidates for Trump best represents Trump's policies and the core of Trump's voters that will gauge Trump? That's a good question, Joel. Carrie Lake, God, is really close. She really, it's just difficult for me when someone hasn't run a big organization. He could choose her. Trump's totally out of the box. He could do whatever the hell he wants. She's real close. Real close. I mean, I don't know that anybody else is as close to Trump as Carrie Lake. Laura, what do you think? Can you jump in? I don't know if she can. Maybe not. Oh, there she is. What do you think, Laura? You've met a lot of these people. So have I. Carrie. You've talked to her.
I personally like Carrie, but the only thing is, like, this is going to sound bad.
Yeah, to be governor.
Well, not only that, but she would be one heck of a press secretary. I mean, I would pop some popcorn and just like record the shows every time she's on and just enjoy her.
Oh my God, she would thoroughly crush the media every damn day.
It would be one heck of a
my
show.
God. Well, then that begs the question, though, Laura. Then who the hell is going to be this guy's VP pick? I mean,
I know. Carrie Lake is the female version of Trump.
She really is, folks.
She's
a polished Trump.
Yes, a little more polished than he is. But that's okay because I want the man to be the man and the woman to be the woman. So
it's like these Democratic strategists in Arizona are like, well, with Mark Lamb running, I just can't see how she gets in the race. What are you talking about? She's by far
and I don't want to blow up anybody's spot, but she's by far Republican primary voters' choice for the Senate nominee. It's not even close. She crushed Lamb. Crush it.
And the thing is, a lot of people like to compare Tulsi to her. Tulsi is
not even close.
No.
Not even close.
Hard no for Tulsi.
Do I think North Carolina is following Florida's path? Evan, let's see how much Hispanics continue to move into North Carolina. They are quite conservative, and we'll see, because they are following the path with the white, older, working class Democrat voting for Republicans at the federal level. They're doing that. But they might end up with a bigger urban vote share than Florida at some point, because, call them what you want, but Cooper understands what I'm telling you is right. The problem with Arizona is not Donald Trump. The problem with Arizona is the share of the urban vote. The same thing with Georgia. And again, I'm going to put Arizona up here for everyone to see. Top of the ticket election results by census tract category. Thank you, Landon. You can clearly see, because I did Georgia, you can clearly see that with Trump on the ticket, he actually increased the share of vote in the suburbs. The problem being is that, when McCain was on the ticket, there weren't that many professional class whites, upper crust WASPs, right? There just weren't as many there. Obviously John McCain did better in the suburban areas than a lot of other Republicans. But that was because the suburbs looked differently back then. The trend was on its way before Trump, and Trump arrested it in 2020 briefly. And by the way, he took a bigger share of the urban vote than other Republicans. It's just that the urban vote, once it gets to be like 60%, if Republicans get crushed that badly, same thing with Nevada, which is why you have to win the Hispanic working class, or do better with them. You don't have to win them, but you got to do better with them. And I think, in all honesty, Trump has a chance to carry Clark County. So Nevada would be a different ballgame. Question. Kerry Lake did amazing in Gila and in Maricopa, especially in areas that butt up against Pinal County, Pinal, whatever. Among Hispanics, she actually outperformed Trump in some of these areas. Is that just part of a natural progression? Was it specific to Kerry Lake? I don't know. And if Trump's on the ballot, will he do better? He was winning Arizona by a larger margin than we had the other candidates winning. So he looked more like Michelle Yee, who was running for treasurer, and Michelle Yee won. That's a good question about North Carolina. Cooper's smart. He's putting that apple plant right in Wake County. That's exactly what you got to do. That happened to Arizona. Ducey, an idiot, thought it would be a great idea to bring in Nike. Like, what are you doing? There's not a single Republican voter who's going to come from another state, take that job at Nike in Phoenix, and vote Republican. It's not going to happen. All you're doing is importing voters for corporate contributions. You're importing voters from another party so you could have corporate contributions and boast about your unemployment number.
And then destroy the very value.
You destroy your friggin' state. Yes, Laura. Yes. And for people who understand, Laura and I, we're from the Northeast. We're old enough to remember New York State voting Republican for Ronald Reagan. And then they absolutely destroyed the state of New York, which was once a beautiful, beautiful state. I'm from the Big Apple, but I spent a lot of time upstate, and I used to love it. Now it's a dump. You go to where I used to hold as a sanctuary, and I used to go all the way up to Storm King Mountain and look at the horizon. You could see the skyline of Manhattan like the Mets hat, folks. It looks like the Mets logo was taken from the top of Storm King Mountain, sitting on those rocks. Watch out for black bears. Don't feed them. Get in your car. But it looks just like, no, but Laura, now you go up there, it's spray painted. It's a dump. By the way, Kirsten Gillibrand ran as a conservative Democrat to win that area in Congress. It turned out to be a complete dump. For people who know where the area I'm talking about, Bear Mountain was once a beautiful ski resort, and then it went all downhill. It was completely destroyed. It took a private resort company that comes in and takes failing resorts, and then they basically buy politicians to make it like exclusive, like it's the only way they can bring it back. Now Bear Mountain's beautiful again.
but not because of Kirsten Gillibrand, who used to let illegals sleep on the benches in the park. Like, it's disgusting, just disgusting what they did to a once beautiful place. Saw that happening in New York, fled mothers and fathers, brought us as kids to New Jersey to have a better life in a nicer suburb. And then guess what? The same shit follows you down and they destroy it. Next thing you know, everywhere you go, up and down Route 9 of the Jersey Turnpike, it smells like ass.
Hey.
It's dump. They destroy everything they touch. Folks who live in Loudoun County, how you liking it? Is it the same Loudoun County from 20 years ago? Nope. Is it the same Williamsburg, folks, for when Laura and I went on our honeymoon? Nope. They wreck everything. They urbanize everything and they destroy everything. Don't speak to me about the damn environment. Kidding me?
Well, without community, you can't have a unification. Simple as that.
Ooh, Ed Dowd is the secretary of RFK's campaign, 80s, Aaron said. I didn't see that. He can, you know what? That could get him some friends with some money, Aaron. It could. What happened to upstate New York is a national shame. People should go to prison. Thank you. That was my personal corner of the world, Javier. Nowhere did I ever feel at home more than, God, I can name a number of places.
Richie, look at this one. Had Boy Scout camp up there.
Mm-hmm.
Remember those days?
So did I.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Destroyed every river town on the Hudson. Do you remember how beautiful the Hudson River was once upon a time? Do you remember that?
It's delicious.
Wrecked. By the way, what's the name of that castle we used to take a boat and sneak to go see? You guys probably know. Starts with a B. I remember that. Barnaby's Castle. Barnaby's Castle. Anyway, it was a guy, a wealthy boy. Tragic end for him. Thought it was a curse, apparently. But anyway, bought a bunch of surplus from the war. It was an arms dealer. Built this gorgeous castle for the family there. And it's on the Hudson. And we used to take a boat there, my godfather's boat, and sneak there and wander around. It was gorgeous. Something Island. It's not Barnabas Island. Barnaby's Island. It's not a lot.
Bannerman Castle?
No. It's something with a B. Anyway, he thought he was cursed from something. Anyway, an ordinance went off.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, my God. He had these big, huge iron doors that led to the castle. And the explosion was so serious, it blew the iron doors flying off the island and went clear into the water in the bay. Yeah, we used to sneak up there, and my brother and I, we used to take my godfather's boat and sneak up there. He would let us. He went with us. It was so cool. You weren't supposed to be there because they were always worried about exploded ordnance. I heard they cleaned it up a lot, but back then it was just nothing but like beautiful ruins. And the Hudson Bay was so gorgeous. You go there during like a November or something, and it's the most beautiful color leaves you will ever see in your life. And that was many, many years ago, though. It's just totally destroyed now. So sad. And by the way, guys, I mean, for those of you who knew what I was talking about, Bear Mountain, oh man. That's like back in like the 80s, the early mid 80s, that's what I pretty much imagined heaven would look like. I loved it, and they wrecked it. I'm going to get that damn island. Island in the Hudson. Hold on.
I still have a picture of you.
Bannerman Castle!
That's what I said. You said no.
Oh, you said Bannerman? I didn't hear you say Bannerman.
Mm-hmm. Oh, look, it's even it. Flashkin said it now.
Yeah, Bannerman's
Castle said it now.
We used to sneak on Bannerman's. Man, you were not allowed there. That was great, though. And again, it was gorgeous. Just to be able to sit there on the island, look around. The fall was like the best. You guys remember Egbert's? Oh, man, it was like this farmer's market. And during Christmas, they had these mechanical displays. So did Bear Mountain, by the way, which was unheard of back then. Nobody had mechanical displays back then. They had like little elves
at Bear Mountain chopping wood, and Mrs. Claus, Mr. Claus was awesome. The only thing was at Egbert's during Easter, they had this egg, this talking egg.
Look at you.
His name was Egbert. Okay. And somehow this creepy egg knew your name, and you'd go talk to him like you would talk to Santa, only it's Egbert. And he didn't look human. He was an egg. He wasn't a costume. He was an egg. And obviously your parents are telling, somebody which
Easy.
name is, and you walk up there, and I'll never forget. I was like, yeah, hi, little Richard, and he was like, hey, little Richard, what do you want the Easter bunny to bring you? And I'm like, oh, no,
Not today.
no.
Run,
No,
Richard,
thank you. I'm okay. I'll be surprised. I'm out. Have a candy apple, Richard. Nope, that's poison shit right there. No, thank you.
Your mouth is fresh today, mister.
I'm gonna go get. But during the holidays and during the pumpkins were massive. Apple cider, probably the most delicious hot apple cider in the world. I wonder if Egbert's is still there. Egbert's was the name of the place. Deep scars. Right, Laura? I still tell her about this egg. I hated this egg. Are you
The
kidding
eye
me?
still twitches occasionally.
So did my brother. He was like the protective older brother. He didn't like it. He saw I didn't like it, and he was like, we're out. We're leaving. Anybody, you follow us, egg, and you're an omelet. You understand? I'll make an omelet out of you. Yeah, he was funny, though. His name was Egbert. Egbert, the giant talking egg at Egbert's. Oh my God, he is still there. Devitz. That's the name of it. Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen. They said the beloved Egbert is back. It's Windsor, and it is at Devitz, not at Ebbets. I was close. And it's actually not that far up. It's in Orange County. Oh my God, guys. You want to see this thing? Oh, I forgot about the crown. Look at this thing. That's totally it. There it is. Egbert, the beloved Christmas farm. Oh, right. It was Christmas. It was. But I think he's there also at Easter. A talking animatronic egg that was developed and built in 1930 by Cornell University to help promote the egg industry, explains Annie Shute, the marketing manager at Devitz Nursery in New Windsor. He even made an appearance at the World Fair. I'll tell you what, guys, if you're anywhere near this and you've never heard of it, Devitz Nursery, bring your kids for the holiday season. You will not regret it. It is the warmest, most homey. I told you, the cider, cocoa, I'm sure,
Oh, you don't know. You haven't been there in so long, so.
It's true. That's true. There are many holiday traditions in the Hudson Valley, from cutting down a fresh Christmas tree, which we always did. Javier, you know what I'm talking about? Javier, I'm sorry. You know what I'm talking about? It is Javier. I was right the first time. You corrected me and called him.
No, it's Javier.
I said, okay, which is
You
it?
said Javier.
I bet you it is Javier. I bet you the R is silent. Who's right? Tell me. And then if I'm wrong, I'll call you Javier from now on. But cutting down your own Christmas tree was a major deal in the Hudson Valley. You had to cut your own Christmas tree. Like, be a real man and cut your own tree. A visit with Santa for the kiddies. And of course, no holiday is complete without seeing Egbert, the talking egg in New Windsor. Wait, a talking egg is a Christmas tradition? Yes, it's steeped in history, dating all the way back to the 30s. Man, I just told you. I want to see if they got a video of this thing. Is this a video? It's just photos? Come on, Egbert, say something.
I would like you to direct your attention to the screen and look at the post.
Javier. You know why?
I don't
Because
think his
I
mama and
speak a little
papa put an
French.
R at the end for it to be ignored. Just saying.
Look, she's Spanish and I speak a little French. I speak some Spanish now too, but I guess it's my like instinct to say Javier because like it's French. But it's Javier. She is right. I direct your attention to the screen, please. But look at how beautiful it is. This is the White Winter Wonderland where Egbert was one of my favorite rooms. It looks like a castle, kind of like Bannerman's Castle, only it's filled with white only lit Christmas trees, which just looks beautiful, like a winter wonderland. Looks like this, it used to be more snow, or at least maybe it felt like that to me as a kid. And then there's the color room. I mean, they have this nursery just totally decked out. Oh, right. There's a new one. I heard about this. Claire, her name is Claire. Oh, no. No, thank you. Now it's cute. But when I was a kid, look at that thing. You see Egbert? Scared the hell out of you as a child. Look at that thing. And what's so weird is the way he talks. I wish I could have got it on. Let me see if I can get this on. Let me see if I can get this thing on video and see if I can get Egbert. What did I just say? It was debits, right? Debits yeah, here it is. And here's the record online. Let's see if they actually have him talking. Come on. Somebody talk. Yeah, anyway, it was honestly a great time. And then we would do that and we would go to Bear Mountain and even higher, even more north, Schenectady was also beautiful. I used to love the history of Saratoga, so really, really, really cool. That was my personal corner of the world, and where I learned the largemouth bass fish. A lot of people don't realize how good the largemouth bass fishing is in the summer and spring in upstate New York. It's absolutely amazing. And this is somebody who lived in Florida for years. But you would have to work at it. Like I pulled a 12-pounder out of Mohegan Lake. I think it's like a record or something. Meanwhile, I go with my son for the first time ever in Florida, Santa Fe. We take a quick shot across the lake, find this little cove, sit in this little cove. And for the first time my son ever goes largemouth bass fishing, we're just pulling out 5 to 10 pounders all day long. All day long, right, Laura? I'm not exaggerating. All day long. 23 all together. It was unbelievable. And they were every single one of them was huge.
Smaller than 4 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, look at this one. Let me see if I can get. It might be hard for the camera to see, but my God. I just got a Nico memory. Man. Kids grow up fast. Enjoy it while you can. That's all I got to say.
I just can't believe he has his dance.
I know. That's why I was bringing that up. And speaking of which, I got to go get him a little tailored and stuff, It's amazing how time moves by, Laura. I'm getting old and I don't like it. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not dealing with getting older very well. It stinks.
Somebody said Claire looks like a drag queen.
Claire does look like a drag queen. Egbert is having a crisis, an identity crisis. He doesn't know anymore whether he's a female yoke or a male yoke anymore. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Nothing surprises me these days. Come on, real quick.
Well, wouldn't the egg be asexual then?
And that's the thing that I think kind of weirded me out, actually, which shows you that, like, as a child,
it was
something's
a bit feminine looking.
Yeah, something's just wrong, Look at that puppy. You guys see that puppy? Look at the size of that largemouth bass. Do you see that? That's incredible. Watch my son here, who beat me at the end. At the very end, wound up getting the biggest fish of the day. It was an absolute monster. Where are you? Look at this thing. Look at that thing. You believe it? And I actually got a video of him fighting it too. I got 2 videos right at the end, and look at that thing. This was all day long. All day long. Huge, man. Huge, Sean. I mean, and I couldn't believe it. The first one I caught, I was like, oh, this is going to be a day like this. Look at my son with this one. Look at the size of these things. Never seen it never in my life had largemouth that big just basically bite anything. I mean, I'd like to say I'm a great fisherman, and I am, but I never, not like this. Nobody's this good. It was just one after the other. Here's the first one I caught of the day, John. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, as soon as I set the hook, which one of the locals was yelling at me for because I'm a lure fisherman. I'm a fast and hard hook set. And he was like, give it a little bit of time. There, yes, tossed them all back. Yeah. And he's like, give it a little bit of time. And I'm like, used to not giving it that much time. It runs as soon as it's running with the, maybe if you got like a scum frog or a top water, you give it a little bit of time, but not like this. Here's another one. These were just monsters all day long.
But I think this has ruined him for life, though, because if we ever go
here's
back.
Here's the smallest one we caught. I caught it. The big one is my son's. So like the 7-pounder, 6-pounder's his, and the 4-pounder's mine. It was like 4 pounds, I think. And it actually doesn't look that big in this frame until you zoom in on it and then you realize how fat it was. Santa Fe, John. Santa Fe. Which a lot of people don't. Everyone talks about Lake Okeechobee. Oh, Okeechobee. And when I was going to go, I did want to take them to famous Okeechobee. But apparently, it was spring. It was spawning time. There was also a lot the water level was low and there was a lot of weeds. So one of the guys who actually charters, like he's a captain once in a while, he said, look, go to Santa Fe. I know a great spot. And he told us, yeah, that was the one time we didn't catch a bass. That's a pike or a pickerel or something. My son grabbed it, and then that was the largemouth. And it's just huge. And he told me, it was like, the water level's too low for Okeechobee. It's still going to be great. And I knew Santa Fe. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, I took my son once there from the shore, and like he caught some little crap. Remember, Laura? And I'm like, are you sure about that? And he was like,
Do I remember? I was
I'm
petrified.
the boat dock, and I'll even tell you where it is. If you contact me, I'll tell you where the hole is. All right? I'll tell you exactly where it is. And the crazy thing is, John, you can go in there with an outboard. We did cut it as we were going in and use like a little troll to just like position ourselves, but not much. The outboard is what moved us around and backed us in and everything. It was crazy. And he's like, nah, it's not going to scare them. They're too damn big. They don't care. And I'm like, what? I'm used to, like, upstate New York. You go to Lake Osceola, there's an 8-pounder. You make one little like splash and the thing runs. Not these fish. They don't give a damn. And I swear they're harder because they have to live with alligators. And they're just harder. They're bigger and tougher than northern bass. It was incredible. Oh, did you find one, Steph? Can you put it in here so I can click on it? Can you put it in here so I can click on it and then we'll go? I got to show people this. If you can share it, I would love that, because all I can find is the record online version, and it's not playing for some reason. Oh my God, I did find Talking to Egbert. Oh Lord, hold on. I may have found one myself. I just don't want some idiot to be narrating a video. I just want to hear him talk. Skip the ads. Oh my God, he is talking to Egbert. It's a reporter. Oh yes. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I give you, before we leave, the mighty Egbert.
We have an exclusive interview with the king of Christmas himself. It's Egbert. Hi, Egbert.
Hello.
Well, first of all, Merry Christmas, Egbert.
Oh, Merry Christmas to you too. Thanks for coming.
Now, the kids have lots of questions for you too, Egbert. Like, what have they asked about you that you've had to answer?
They asked me if I'm hard-boiled.
Well,
where my legs
are you hard-boiled?
I am hard-boiled. Look at me. Touch me. Well, don't really.
I don't want to touch you, Egbert.
Like my ears?
I do. Now, all right. So now, what is your connection with Santa Claus? So you, like, the kids come and you ask them what they want for.
Should we stop here? I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy who. Right, Laura?
No mas.
Let's end it here. I don't want to be the guy
who
did that. And honestly, I think they updated him for a while. It is not right, and it was even worse back then. I'm telling you, it was even worse back then. And it just looks demonic as all hell, Cat, no doubt. But whatever. So yeah, that's Egbert. But again, I would highly recommend you go for the holidays because it is, just don't talk to him if you don't want to, but it is awesome. And I think honestly, you have to walk through them when you're taking a little tour. You used to have to. I don't know if you still do. I don't know. It's been years, but it was a magical place aside for Egbert. You know, could scare your kid. It's nightmare food. People are saying nightmare fuel. It absolutely, if it could scare your kid, don't take them. But, you know, it still was a really, really cool place to go for the holidays. And we got another one over here, actually, that Laura and I want to try. And every year we just don't get a chance. We're doing all our other traditions and we haven't gotten a chance. And this year, Laura, we got to try to get out there. All right. So with that in mind, I'm going to kick rocks and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Locals and YouTube members, keep an eye out for what we're going to post. YouTube, I did put your locals coupon code there if you want to go from one to the other. All right. And that will cover the cost of what you paid for the month on YouTube. So if you want to go over to locals, which is more interactive anyway, that's for you. All right. And keep your eye out for the poll. We'll talk more about it. There's a lot to talk about with this poll in the coming days. All right, folks. See you all later. Deuces.
Deuces.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a hot